Chapter 561 Man-Eating Flower. Through the little demon insect of the black-boned bug that Yi-chun had captured earlier, he had already learned that the two types of lethal life forms in the second layer of the Undersea Divine Palace were the Black Armored Beast Clan and the Black-Boned Bug Clan. As for the Black Armored Beast Clan, the strongest among them was at the first Tribulation True God level. And the Black-Boned Bug Clan, according to the little demon insect, had its strongest only at the two Tribulations True God level. Yi-chun, of course, had not the slightest fear of such levels, let alone 10,000 murderous black-boned bugs scattered throughout the vast second-level realm, which made it difficult to encounter a large number at once. Even if all these black-boned bugs came at Yi-chun together, he would not be afraid. In Yi-chun's hands was a large-range attack artifact, the Thunder Gourd, eliminating two Tribulations True God-level black-boned bugs as easily as killing chickens. With a calm heart, Yi-chun continued to fly forward, exploring as he went. The true god Du Ling and the heavenly saints following Yi-chun, however, were constantly on pins and needles, afraid that they might carelessly suffer a sneak attack and perish at the hands or mandibles of the black-boned bugs. However, when they encountered several sneak attacks by black-boned bugs in succession, Yi-chun finally took action and completely annihilated these attacking bugs, which finally put true god Du Ling and the heavenly saints at ease. They knew that they had followed the right person this time. This young heavenly saint Yi-chun had an inconceivably strong power, with Yi-chun leading them through the second layer of the Undersea Divine Palace. There clearly wouldn't be any problems. Suddenly, many heavenly saints, even true god Du Ling himself, gathered around Yi-chun, lavishing him with praise and adoration. But Yi-chun didn't feel even the slightest bit of pride or concern for the fawning of these heavenly saints and true god Du Ling. He would not follow in the footsteps of heavenly saint Liao Hua, who succumbed to pride and perished without even knowing how he died. Experience more tales on Novelbin.com. Yi-chun constantly reminded himself that he was still traversing the Undersea Divine Palace. He had to find the Eye of Creation and the Eye of the Divine Sea as soon as possible, in addition to locating the true Phoenix Jiangyao Mulan True God, and some other familiar heavenly saints he could possibly look after. But to Yi-chun's disappointment, after leading these heavenly saints and true god Du Ling through a large expanse of territory, they didn't find even the faintest trace of the Eye of Creation or the Eye of the Divine Sea, which were revealed in the Jade Slip. Even after spending nearly 10 days almost completely scouring the entire second layer, they came up empty-handed. Even after encountering many warriors within this folded space, they neither discovered any familiar faces nor heard any news of the Eye of Creation or the Eye of the Divine Sea from these warriors, which greatly disappointed Yi-chun. Finally, when Yi-chun stopped beside a revealed passage leading to the third layer of the Undersea Divine Palace, he let out a sigh. The second layer of the Undersea Divine Palace is still too shallow, not very challenging, and yields almost no gain. We didn't even see any of the treasures or unusual places within the palace. It seems, just as the Jade Slip indicated, that the farther down one goes into the Undersea Divine Palace, the more challenging and wondrous it becomes. The Eye of Creation and the Eye of the Divine Sea are very likely in the deeper levels of the palace. Looks like it's time to head for the third layer of the Undersea Divine Palace. The Undersea Divine Palace, consisting of 33 levels, gave Yi-chun just 1 year to find the Eye of Creation and the Eye of the Divine Sea. Naturally, he wouldn't want to waste too much time on this second layer. Preparing to go to the third layer, Yi-chun looked back at the warriors following him. At this moment, the number of warriors following Yi-chun had swelled to several hundreds, including several more First Tribulation True Gods among them. As for others not present, they, like Yi-chun and his group, were countless heavenly saints and lower-ranking true gods, following behind the strong true gods, searching together through the Undersea Divine Palace. Yi-chun, looking at the several hundred warriors behind him, spoke out, "Fellow Taoists, I am ready to proceed to the third layer. When going to the third layer, we will be transported again into different locations of folded space, and the chances of us meeting again will be slim. I, Yi-chun, hereby bid farewell to all fellow Taoists in advance." Hearing that Yi-chun was going to the third layer of the Undersea Divine Palace, the heavenly saints and first tribulation true gods behind him became jittery and hesitant. While they wanted to continue delving deeper in the hopes of discovering the eye of creation and the eye of the divine sea, which could ensure their escape from this great cleansing tribulation, they also feared encountering greater dangers below. If they met dangers they couldn't withstand in the next layer without Yi Chen's powerful protection, then they might not even have a chance to flee for their lives. Looking at these hesitant warriors, Yi Chen chuckled and took strides toward the passage leading to the third layer of the undersea divine palace. Regardless of whether these people chose to go to the third layer or not, Yi Chen wouldn't hesitate for a moment. He had to move on to the next layer, and even deeper into the layers of the undersea divine palace. Yi Chen would not sit waiting for death. It wasn't just about the eye of creation. Even if he found one or two eye of creation artifacts, he would continue to delve deeper. One or two eye of creation artifacts were simply not enough for the survival of those around him. Whoosh! As Yi Chen entered the passage, a flash of light later, he arrived directly at the third level of the undersea divine palace. After Yi Chen had completely disappeared from the second level, many of the warriors who were still hesitating clenched their teeth and said, "We've only made it to the second level. We can't stop now. If the third level proves too dangerous, we can still use the passage to return to the second level. If we just hide on the second level, then after a year, the great cleansing tribulation will utterly annihilate the heavenly saints and true gods, and without the eye of creation and eye of the divine sea, we will also lose our lives outright. Let's go for it. Continue to the third level and see." In the midst of their conversation, these warriors also flew into the passage one after another, eventually disappearing. In the end, there were only a few individuals left hesitating, churning with reluctance, afraid to continue venturing downward. The third level of the undersea divine palace. This was a world densely covered with jungle, and as soon as Yi Chen teleported in, he found himself in a thick forest. Within this dense forest were gigantic trees and vines everywhere. Some of the trees had leaves that were even bigger than a house, and the grass on the ground was exceptionally lush. From time to time, one could also see an assortment of uniquely shaped flowers with fragrant scents along the path. After entering such a densely vegetated world, Yi Chen became even more cautious in his heart. With countless trees, countless vines, and countless branches blocking the way, one could never know where dangers lay hidden. This was yet another new world, facing a new threat of slaughter. Yi Chen, who knew nothing about this place, of course had to be extremely careful. Like in the second level of the undersea divine palace, Yi Chen flew forward while on high alert, using his divine sense and detection treasures to scrutinize everything. Someone? After flying for a short while, Yi Chen suddenly heard sharp, piercing screams from ahead, along with numerous shouts of alarm. Yi Chen's divine sense immediately probed towards the source of the sounds. Although this jungle world greatly interfered with his divine sense, Yi Chen's divine soul had undergone specialized training in the heavenly saint realm and had grown much stronger. Even though it was still greatly affected within a 10-li radius, he could still discern everything clearly. When Yi Chen's divine sense focused toward the source of the sounds, he saw a scene that was both shocking and thrilling. The shock came when Yi Chen saw, on a patch of open ground in the jungle ahead, beside the path were 5 gargantuan plants in the shape of flowers. At that moment, the 5 massive flowers were actually attacking 5 of the dozens of people on the open ground. When Yi Chen probed with his divine sense, he directly saw 5 heavenly saints wrapped by these huge flowers, with half their bodies engulfed within the petals, only their lower halves exposed. Moreover, the lower halves of these 5 heavenly saints were continually being enveloped by the flowers, dragging them into the petal's interior. From a distance, it looked as if the flowers were consuming these heavenly saints. It wasn't just a semblance. When Yi Chen's divine sense probed inside the flowers, he saw that it was a real act of swallowing. These flowers were actually a species of man-eating flowers. The petals and stamens inside were like grinding discs, continuously shredding the flesh of the heavenly saints that had been wrapped inside. Large patches of blood were flowing out from within the petals. The earlier screams were indeed from the 5 heavenly saints who were being devoured and dragged into the petals. The shouts of alarm were from the other people nearby. In addition to the shock of the man-eating flowers being able to devour even heavenly saints, what delighted Yi Chun was that he finally saw someone he knew all too well in the distance. Heavenly Saint Long Xian. It was indeed the strongest figure from the 13 countries of the south of the barbaric wilderness continent, Heavenly Saint Long Xian, who had reached the middle stage of Heavenly Saint realm. At that moment, dressed in a yellow robe, with a fiery red mark between her brows and a face fair and pure, Heavenly Saint Long Xian was casting fire magic, joining forces with several other dozens of warriors to attack the 5 man-eating flowers that were devouring the heavenly saints. Even though these dozens of warriors were all heavenly saints, and among them were a few late-stage heavenly saints, they were helpless against those 5 man-eating flowers. Even more so, upon seeing that in almost the blink of an eye, the 5 heavenly saints who had earlier been attacked by the gigantic man-eating flowers were completely devoured, leaving no trace of life, and those 5 enormous man-eating flowers, seemingly unsatiated, launched another lightning-quick attack on the people, causing all the heavenly saints to be so frightened that they instantly retreated. And then, something even more unbelievable happened. Around these man-eating flowers, countless gigantic trees, vines, and grasses seemed to come to life, all moving wildly and launching frenzied attacks toward the dozens of warriors who were now surrounded by them. One particular blade of grass, which was originally only a few feet long, suddenly grew to dozens of feet in an instant, like an awe-inspiring green ribbon, and in a flash wrapped around Heavenly Saint Long Xian, who was among the crowd. Chapter 562-Black Rose. The attack power of these enormous trees, vines, grasses, and huge flowers is incredibly astounding. Even the heavenly saints within, including those in the later stages, couldn't fully resist with just their combat power. Only a few people managed to barely fend off the assault of these trees, vines, grasses, and huge flowers by summoning powerful magical treasures. The vast majority of the others had already fallen completely into crisis. Among the crowd, Heavenly Saint Long Xian, even with exceptional combat power in the Southern Territory, was at a disadvantage in the enormous crisis of the Undersea Divine Palace, which enveloped the whole barbarian wilderness continent and countless martial artists from the 33 continents and the minor spirit realm. At this moment, facing the crazed entanglement of the suddenly enlarged grass that resembled a horrifying cyan ribbon, even her use of a fire element divine art to attack it was still bound by this blade of grass. The fire element divine art she cultivated could incinerate thousands of trees, yet it couldn't burn even a bit of this vastly enlarged blade of grass. As the grass tightened its grip, Heavenly Saint Long Xian felt a genuine threat to her life. It was very likely that in the next moment, she would share the fate of the 5 heavenly saints who had been killed by the man-eating flowers. Just as a look of panic appeared on the pure and holy face of Heavenly Saint Long Xian, she suddenly felt that a figure flew to her side. Then Heavenly Saint Long Xian saw the figure slash through the void, and the wildly enlarged blade of grass that had bound her and which she couldn't breach with all her methods, was instantly chopped into countless segments. The constricting force that had bound her vanished in an instant. Someone had saved her. Heavenly Saint Long Xian quickly looked towards the figure, and when she saw his face, she exclaimed in surprise, "Yi Chun!" Heavenly Saint Long Xian had heard rumors long before the battle in the Southern Territory that Yi Chun's strength was so formidable it rivaled that of a true god. But she had never seen it for herself. This time, however, she truly witnessed it. The one who rescued Heavenly Saint Long Xian was, of course, Yi Chun. Years ago, in the Heavenly Saint ancient tomb, Heavenly Saint Long Xian had rescued Yi Chun from Elder Kogu's hands. Now, seeing Heavenly Saint Long Xian in danger, Yi Chun certainly wouldn't stand idly by. When Yi Chun used the stellar power he had cultivated from the primordial chapter to execute the gold element divine art Golden Light Divine Slash, he instantly cut through the enormous grass that had entangled Heavenly Saint Long Xian. The gold element divine art Golden Light Divine Slash is one of the 5 great divine arts from the 3rd chapter of the primordial star scripture, Taiyuan chapter. When Yi Chun completed the Taiyuan chapter, the power of the 5 great divine arts reached perfection level. The power of the 5 great divine arts alone could instantly kill a late-stage heavenly saint. Find more to read at novelbin.com. What's more, Yi-chun had now infused them with the stellar power from the primordial chapter. The power of the gold element divine art at this moment was so tremendous that not only could it defeat late-stage heavenly saints, but Yi-chun was also confident he could severely injure or even kill gods undergoing the first or second tribulation. Yi-chun had sensed early on that the killing force of the enormous blade of grass entangling heavenly Saint Long Xian was merely at the level of a first tribulation true god. Naturally, cutting such force was as easy as flipping his hand. Seeing heavenly Saint Long Xian looking at him in surprise and greeting him, Yi-chun nodded back with a light smile and then immediately flew back up into the high sky. Although heavenly Saint Long Xian's crisis had been resolved, there were still dozens of heavenly saints completely enveloped in crisis. Since Yi-chun had taken action, he certainly wouldn't watch these people get killed without doing anything. Whoosh! 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 Yi-chun, who had flown high into the sky, suddenly reached down with a massive hand. An immense power immediately enveloped all the alive, enormous trees, vines, grasses, and flowers within several miles. Then, Yi-chun fiercely lifted his hand upward. This unparalleled power astonishingly uprooted all the enormous trees, vines, grasses, and flowers. Countless trees, vines, grasses, and huge flowers began to struggle wildly in the sky, flailing madly. Yi-chun's great 5 elements sword-light divine art erupted from his palm in an instant. Sizzling, wave after wave of sword-light power began to wildly race along the branches and leaves of these plants and even eventually slash towards them. Spurt, 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 spurt. In an instant, the enormous trees, vines, grasses, and huge flowers in the sky were all chopped into innumerable pieces. The heavenly saints who had been entangled by these plants all fell out of their bounds and hurriedly flew to the side, escaping to safety. As Yi-chun made another grabbing motion in the air at this time, these chopped segments of enormous trees, vines, grasses, and huge flowers were all imprisoned in the void. Immediately after, Yi-chun's fire element divine art, heaven-devouring true fire, was activated, and in an instant, the sky full of plant segments chopped into pieces blazed furiously into flames. Gold element divine arts, swordsmanship divine arts, fire element divine arts. Yi-chun unleashed several great divine arts, completely annihilating this terrifying patch of man-eating plants in an instant. In the end, as all the plants were restrained and burned in the sky, everyone even heard the plants emitting a bone-chillingly miserable scream. Clearly, these plants were a kind of murderous life form in the 3rd level of the Undersea Divine Palace, hidden within this jungle world, specifically targeting martial artists for killing. Crackle! Crackle! But no matter how the murderous life forms screamed in agony, they couldn't escape their fate of being cut down and burned. Eventually, the pitiful screams faded away, and the whole world became utterly quiet again. All the heavenly saints who had fortuitously escaped death all looked towards Yi-chun in the void above, their mouths agape in awe. Just now, Yi-chun's earth-shattering move made them feel as if they were witnessing a true god-wielding punishments, overwhelming the world, unmatched. Yi-chun. As the crowd continued flying forward, heavenly Saint Long Xian kept looking towards Yi-chun at her side. She couldn't understand how this boy, who was much younger than her, had grown to such an extent. Heavenly Saint Long Xian felt that, whether it was the martial skills Yi-chun cultivated, or his true qi, even his physical body and divine soul, they all seemed much stronger than her, not at all like what a young heavenly saint at the early stages should possess. Not to mention the early stages of heavenly saint, she had never even felt such a level of power in those at the late stages of heavenly saint. Feeling a bit embarrassed under the continuous gaze of the stunningly pure and dignified heavenly Saint Long Xian, who had a dot of cinnabar at her forehead, Yi-chun smiled and said to her, "Elder Long Xian, how did so many of you come together? Did you encounter Zhang Yao in the 2nd layer of the Undersea Divine Palace?" Heavenly Saint Long Xian also realized the impropriety of staring at Yi-chun like this for so long. Her beautiful and pure face turned a shade of crimson. She looked at Yi-chan and smiled, saying, "The dozens of us were transmitted directly from the gateway of the Undersea Divine Palace's second layer to the third and met each other right after arriving. It seems we were directly transported into a realm of danger. Yi-chan, luckily we ran into you this time. Otherwise, we might all be dead now." Speaking of the end, Heavenly Saint Long Xian also felt a chill in her heart, and her pretty face turned somewhat pale. At the mention of Jiang Yao, whom Yi-chan had asked about, Heavenly Saint Long Xian shook her head. "I didn't see Jiang Yao in the second layer, but I did encounter the Mulan True God. Thanks to the Mulan True God, I managed to safely get through the attacks of the black-boned bugs and charge into the third layer. Now the Mulan True God should also be in the third layer, but it is unknown whether he is in this particular folded space or not." "Didn't meet Jiang Yao, but encountered Mulan True God?" Yi-chan nodded and his eyes shifted towards the void. Having not heard any news about Jiang Yao, nor having seen her, he was quite worried about Jiang Yao. "Auntie." What Yi-chan didn't know was that at this moment, Jiang Yao had also arrived at the third layer of the Undersea Divine Palace and had encountered the True Phoenix. However, the space Jiang Yao and True Phoenix were in did not belong to the same folded space of the Undersea Divine Palace's third layer as Yi-chan. "Auntie, have you seen Yi-chan?" Now, flying beside True Phoenix, Jiang Yao, also worried about Yi-chan, was asking about his whereabouts. When she saw True Phoenix shaking her head, Jiang Yao's small face became filled with concern. Although Yi-chan was much stronger than her, in this deadly Undersea Divine Palace, having great strength didn't guarantee safety. How could Jiang Yao not be deeply worried, having not met Yi-chan all this time? "Princess Yao, let's go. The deeper we go, the fewer martial artists we meet, and it's said that there are fewer folded spaces too, so the chances of encountering others are greater. Let's quickly search through this third layer and find the entrance to the fourth layer. Maybe on the fourth layer of the Undersea Divine Palace, we could meet Yi-chan." True Phoenix spoke to Jiang Yao, whose face was full of concern. "Okay." Jiang Yao nodded, then took off with True Phoenix. As the two flew out of a vast forest region, they suddenly discovered a dazzling array of roses blooming in the valley ahead. All of these roses were an astonishing, mystical black color. Black roses! As Jiang Yao and True Phoenix encountered black roses in another folded space, Yi-chan's group, ahead in a valley, also spotted a vibrantly blooming expanse of the same mystical black roses. These black roses were much larger than normal ones, each plant standing 5 to 6 meters tall. And what was even more astonishing was that upon smelling the fragrance of the black roses, everyone felt their own true chi surging rapidly inside. Is this field of black roses the second lethal life form in this third layer of the Undersea Divine Palace? Or is it a land of wonders? Even though the aroma of the black roses caused everyone's true chi to rapidly increase, the martial artists who had just traversed a vast region of man-eating plants were still hesitant to act rashly. Yi-chan, at the forefront of the group, looking out over the valley filled with blooming black roses, felt a stir in his emotions. Having studied Lord Tianyun's 9 volumes of formation array, he realized at a glance that this entire field of black roses was actually a grand formation. A grand formation buzzing with vital energy for cultivation. This place is a land of life, not a land of death. It is said besides deadly dangers, there are also numerous wondrous places in the Undersea Divine Palace. It seems we have encountered one such wonder. Taking the lead, Yi-chan headed straight for the Valley of Black Roses. Chapter 563 – Guidance of the Divine King. From the outside, this appears to be a small valley covering thousands of zhang. However, upon truly entering this Black Rose Valley, Yi-chan discovered that it was an immensely vast world within a world. Inside the Rose Valley, there was another hidden space, another realm within the third layer of the Undersea Divine Palace. Yi-chan saw that in this immeasurably vast world, there were plants of black roses as tall as 5 to 6 meters everywhere, each black rose blooming gorgeously upon the thorny stalks, dazzling and eye-catching. Yi-chan also saw that within this world of black roses, endless light was shining on a place in the void. Looking towards that place, one could see a figure with long legs, dressed in black, and sitting in the void like a queen. The aura of this woman in black caused Yi Chen's heart to tremble. It was the aura of a divine king that he had once sensed in the minor pole sky. Was this woman a divine king? How could a divine king appear in the third layer of the undersea divine palace? Yi Chen's eyes were filled with disbelief. After Yi Chen flew into this space, those following him, including Heavenly Saint Long Xian and the others, also flew into this space. So many black roses. Heavens! Such dense true qi. Cultivating here for a year might be as effective as cultivating outside for 100 years. What place is this? Could it really be a miraculous place within the undersea divine palace? Seeing the sky full of black roses and sensing the extremely rich true qi in the world, all the martial artists who entered this space let out cries of surprise. However, when their gazes shifted from the ground to the figure in black in the sky bathed in an endless glow, their cries of surprise stopped abruptly, because all of them realized that the aura emanating from this woman in black was something they had never encountered before. It was more special and more terrifying than the aura of a nine tribulations true god that they had faintly sensed before. Although they had never seen a god-king level being, they all thought, just like Yi Chen, that this woman in black might very likely be a divine king. Divine king! Thinking of this title, everyone was holding their breath and dared not make any sudden moves. It was not only the people in the folded space where Yi Chen was located who discovered this rose valley and the woman in black inside the valley. In the other 7 folded spaces of the third layer of the undersea divine palace, including the space where Zhongyao the true phoenix was, where the ancient emperor of the Yen clan was, where palace master Yuan Li and others were, where the elder clan leader of the flying spirit clan at 9 tribulations true god realm was, and where the elder clan leader of the vermilion bird clan was. In every folded space, as long as the martial artists had passed through the man-eating forest, they all encountered a rose valley and discovered the woman in black in the valley, likely a god-king level being. After discovering this woman in black, even the ancient emperor of the Yen clan, the elder clan leader of the flying spirit clan, the elder clan leader of the vermilion bird clan, and those at the 9 tribulations true god realm dared not make any sudden moves or even speak. In the third layer of the undersea divine palace, there were a total of 8 folded spaces, and each one contained such a black rose valley with such a woman in black. It was extremely abnormal. This woman in black seemed as if she could simultaneously control all 8 folded spaces. Your next chapter awaits on Novelbin. Calm. She looked at everyone in the 8 folded spaces, at Yi Chen, Zhongyao, True Phoenix, the ancient emperor of the Yen clan. Her cold and stunningly beautiful eyes swept over everyone and then turned towards the outside of the valley, as if she was waiting for something else. After waiting for several hours, countless figures of martial artists passed the previous checkpoints and flew into the rose valley of the 8 folded spaces. Once no more people entered, the woman in black finally spoke. Her voice resonated simultaneously in all 8 folded spaces. I am called Hei Mei, and you may address me as God King Hei Mei. Boom! The first sentence spoken by the woman in black sent shockwaves through the hearts of all the martial artists in the 8 folded spaces. Even though many had speculated that the woman in black was a divine king, it was less startling than hearing it from her own lips. A divine king. That was a being capable of traversing the starry skies and different continents of stars. It was definitely an existence that transcended a true god. To know that even a 9 calamities true god could only be confined to a single star continent, incapable of traversing the starry universe, yet a divine king could do it. They had actually encountered a divine king in the 3rd level of the undersea divine palace. Everyone was unable to believe it, they dared not believe it. Such a being, if they wanted to kill them, it would be as easy as flipping their hand, filling countless warriors' hearts with panic. Amidst the panic of countless warriors, the woman in black, God King Hei Mei, continued, those of you who have entered the undersea divine palace this time, some are incredibly fortunate, yet others highly unfortunate. The great fortune is that this time, I have been assigned to guard the 3rd level. Encountering me on this level, I can provide you some guidance, allowing you to better navigate the undersea divine palace later on. The great misfortune is, My appearance in the first 3 levels also signifies that the Eye of the Divine Sea will definitely appear in the last 3 levels of the Undersea Divine Palace. The last 3 levels, the 31st, 32nd, and 33rd, are also the most dangerous ones. If you want to obtain the Eye of the Divine Sea, you must enter these last 3 levels for a chance. The words of God King He Mei turned the faces of countless warriors deathly pale. Even Yi Chun, the ancient emperor of the Yen clan, the elder chief of the Flying Spirit clan, and others had their expression turn exceedingly uglier in an instant. Previously, according to the rules of the Undersea Divine Palace Jade Token, the Eye of the Divine Sea could appear on any of the 33 levels. Everyone was hoping that the Eye of the Divine Sea would appear among the earlier levels. After all, the levels above were safer, and their chances of obtaining the Eye of the Divine Sea were greater. Looking at the histories of the 84 recorded Biming Divine Sea Great Purgations, the mere 5 times someone found the Eye of the Divine Sea were all within the first 22 levels. If the Eye of the Divine Sea didn't appear within the first 22 levels, the chance of finding it was virtually 0. Even if it was possible that during unrecorded Great Purgations, someone found the Eye of the Divine Sea in the last few levels, the chances were extremely slim. The words of God King He Mei were essentially announcing that it was very likely all the hundreds of thousands of warriors would encounter a great cleansing, and in the end, the only ones likely to survive would be the person who obtains the Eye of Creation. With at most 33 survivors, how could this not leave the myriad of warriors in despair, making faces like Yi Chen, the ancient emperor of the Yen clan, who wished to save all their companions, look exceedingly grim. God King He Mei saw the expressions of the crowd, but her cold and stunning face remained completely undisturbed. She continued, "I'm afraid all of you have guessed that the Eye of the Divine Sea is almost beyond your reach. That's why I say this is your great misfortune. However, as I've mentioned before, encountering me is your great fortune as well. I shall provide you with some guidance. Now, listen carefully to these guidelines. These guidelines involve the search for the Eye of Creation." Boom! The words of God King He Mei made the countless previously despairing warriors all turn their gaze towards her. Even Yi Chun, the ancient emperor of the Yen clan, and others all looked towards God King He Mei. The Eye of the Divine Sea was in the last 3 levels, in the most dangerous levels, almost impossible to obtain. Then those 33 Eyes of Creation were truly invaluable. Everyone, of course, wanted to obtain them. Everyone, of course, wanted to strive for more Eyes of Creation, to allow themselves and even more of their companions to survive. I can tell you the locations of the 33 Eyes of Creation. The guidance from God King He Mei startled everyone from the get-go. Only to hear God King He Mei say, "The 33 Eyes of Creation are spread across 4 levels of the Undersea Divine Palace, the closest to you being in the 6th level of the Undersea Divine Palace. Inside, there is 1 Eye of Creation, and further down, in the 15th level of the Undersea Divine Palace, there are 8 Eyes of Creation. In the 21st level of the Undersea Divine Palace, there are 10 Eyes of Creation. The last 14 Eyes of Creation are in the 33rd level of the Undersea Divine Palace." Chapter 564- Despair. Boom! As the words of God King He Mei fell, all 8 folded spaces within the 8 rose valleys were filled with noise. Everyone had even stopped caring about their reverence for the powerful aura of God King He Mei, completely unable to suppress the agitation, panic, surprise, and madness within their hearts. The 33 Eyes of Creation were actually distributed among the 4 levels of the Undersea Divine Palace. In the 6th level of the Undersea Divine Palace, there was 1 Eye of Creation. In the 15th level, 8 Eyes of Creation. In the 21st level, 10 Eyes of Creation. And in the 33rd level, 14 Eyes of Creation. These 33 Eyes of Creation represented the only 33 chances for survival in the Great Divine Cleansing Calamity. Who wouldn't want to survive? Who wouldn't want to snatch them? If it weren't for the fear that God King He Mei still had guidance to offer, countless individuals would immediately seek the passages to the deeper levels of the Undersea Divine Palace, and hurry to the 6th level as quickly as possible. The lowest 33rd level of the Undersea Divine Palace had the most Eyes of Creation, a total of 14, but everyone knew that it was almost impossible to find an Eye of Creation in the most dangerous 33rd level. The next best possibility was to snatch the remaining 19 Eyes of Creation from the 6th, 15th, and 21st levels. Though the 6th level had only one Eye of Creation, it was obviously the easiest place to obtain an Eye of Creation, so naturally, countless martial artists wanted to head there first to find that one. After all, for many, it would probably already be very difficult to reach the 6th level, let alone venture to even deeper levels. It was only individuals like Yi Chun and the ancient emperor of the Yen clan who were still considering the Eyes of Creation in the deeper realms, as well as the Eye of the Divine Sea that might exist on the very last 3 levels, which was extremely difficult to obtain. Witnessing countless individuals unable to restrain their nervous and crazed emotions, God King He Mei let out a light laugh. With her laugh, her stunningly beautiful face, like melting snowflakes or blossoming pear flowers, mesmerized countless martial artists in an instant. After her light laugh, God King He Mei spoke again. Seeing you all like this is like seeing the bewildered, scared, fearful, and panicked state I was in when I was banished to the Undersea Divine Palace. This kind of emotion even caused countless life forms banished to the Undersea Divine Palace and many god kings to fall into madness, to kill you all in order to alleviate their anger and fear. However, after I figured it out, I was willing to offer you more guidance. These words of God King He Mei caused utter turmoil among the countless martial artists. Clearly, what God King He Mei meant was that in the deeper levels of the Undersea Divine Palace, the intention of many life forms to kill them might intensify, and there were even mad god kings. Their journey through the lower levels of the Undersea Divine Palace would definitely not be easy. The martial artists in turmoil could only continue to listen to the guidance of God King He Mei. They could only try to find more help for their adventure in the Undersea Divine Palace from the guidance given by God King He Mei. Indeed, as she said, God King He Mei was willing to provide the martial artists with more guidance. She continued, "The divine cleansing calamity is extremely difficult to get through. Finding the Eyes of Creation is definitely not simple either. In the deeper levels of the Undersea Divine Palace, the lower you go, the more dangerous it gets. Among tens of thousands of you, if a few hundred manage to survive, that would be truly remarkable. I fear that before the divine cleansing calamity comes to completely annihilate you heavenly saint true gods, before you even find the Eyes of Creation, the vast majority of you will have already died within the 33 levels of the Undersea Divine Palace. Let me tell you, those of you who are heavenly saints, if you do not have absolute strength and support, do not try to venture below the 11th level. Although there is only one Eye of Creation in the first 11 levels, even if you await death, you still have a certain chance of survival. Perhaps some of you might obtain the Eye of the Divine Sea and escape with your lives by luck. But if you take the risk and go below the 11th level, I fear that all the heavenly saints among you will die. This is a warning from God King He Mei to all heavenly saints." Upon hearing the words of God King He Mei, countless heavenly saints were torn apart inside. They had already ventured through 2 levels of the Undersea Divine Palace and had witnessed the terrifying life-threatening entities within, and the life-threatening entities in the parts of the Undersea Divine Palace they had seen so far were even the weaker ones. Without even thinking, they knew what lay further ahead would be even more horrifying. However, if they were to just sit and wait for death, that was something they were absolutely unwilling to do. As countless heavenly saints struggled with their decision, God King He Mei turned her gaze towards all the true gods within the 8 folded spaces. As for true gods, I must remind you, if you don't have powerful means and strength to rely on, true gods below the 5th calamity should absolutely not set foot below the 22nd level. Even in the first 22 levels, you must be extremely careful to stay alive. As for true gods above the 5th calamity, you can try to enter the Undersea Divine Palace below the 22nd level, but it's just that, a trial. Once you enter the Undersea Divine Palace below the 22nd level, any level could be the end of your life. Alright, that is all the warning I have for everyone, she concluded. Now, all of you who are willing to take the challenge can continue to venture downward. Those who are not can simply stay in my Rose Valley to cultivate. After this point, such calm and safe places will be rare. After God King He Mei finished speaking, A flash of divine light sparked in the void, and her figure disappeared simultaneously from the 8 rose valleys within the 8 folded spaces. At the same time, the teleportation array leading out of Rose Valley appeared before everyone. When God King Mei had completely vanished, the entire 8 folded spaces instantly plunged into chaos. Charge. Stay updated via novelbin.com. No matter what, I must quickly enter the 6th level to find that Eye of Creation. Many people immediately moved, entering the teleportation array inside Rose Valley, transmitting themselves outside of Rose Valley, and directly flying through the 3rd level domain of the Undersea Divine Palace, searching for the passage to the 4th level of the Undersea Divine Palace. At this moment, it was already certain that neither the Eye of Creation nor the Eye of the Divine Sea were present in the 3rd or even the 4th and 5th levels, so of course they would not waste time in these levels any longer. Of course, many people, especially many heavenly saints, hesitated completely. God King Mei said that without absolute reliance, heavenly saints shouldn't enter below the 11th level. But in the first 11 levels, there's only one Eye of Creation. Just one, with so many people competing for it, even true gods are vying for it. How could I, merely in the heavenly saint realm, possibly obtain it? Moreover, to go to the 6th level, I still have to get past the 4th and 5th levels of the Undersea Divine Palace. It is very likely that I'll die before I even reach the 6th level. What to do? What to do? These people didn't dare go any further down. Yet they also knew that if they didn't go down to seek the Eye of Creation, waiting here would also not offer them much chance of survival. After all, without the Eye of Creation, the only thing that could save their lives, the Eye of the Divine Sea, had an almost zero chance of being obtained by anyone in the final 3 levels. Waiting like this, at best, they would just live a little longer. Even if they cultivated fiercely in Rose Valley, when the great cleansing catastrophe began to eliminate the heavenly saint true gods, they would still inevitably die. To go was to die. Not to go was also to die. Countless heavenly saints had already fallen into despair. Chapter 565 The First Eye of Creation. Countless people were in despair, and countless others had already begun to take action. At that moment, Yi Chun turned to look at Heavenly Saint Long Xian beside him. Elder Long Xian, do you wish to continue venturing deeper? Yi Chun asked Heavenly Saint Long Xian. If Heavenly Saint Long Xian chose to continue the descent, then Yi Chun would certainly need to take her along as they searched for the passage to the 4th level of the Undersea Divine Palace within the 3rd level. If Heavenly Saint Long Xian decided to stay within Rose Valley, then Yi Chun would naturally respect Heavenly Saint Long Xian's choice. He would act on his own. With a resolute look in her beautiful eyes, Heavenly Saint Long Xian glanced at the warriors who were already flying out of Rose Valley and said, I will continue downwards. At the very least, I cannot just remain on the 3rd level to wait for death. Yi Chun nodded. Then let's go together. Whoosh. After 2 flashes of light, both of them were transported out of Rose Valley and returned to the world outside the 3rd level. Knowing that the Eye of Creation was on the 6th level, Yi Chun was not about to waste any more time on the 3rd level. With a grand gesture, he grasped at the void, and the heaven-reaching divine artifact, his mystic vessel, appeared right beside him, suddenly expanding from a small craft into one 1,000 zhang long. Elder Long Xian, let's take this vessel and break through the 3rd level of the Undersea Divine Palace. Yi Chun called out directly to Heavenly Saint Long Xian. This vessel. When Heavenly Saint Long Xian laid her eyes on the heaven-reaching divine artifact, the mystic vessel that appeared beside Yi Chun, she was utterly astonished. As a heavenly saint who had once been the foremost warrior among the 13 countries of the Southern Territory, her vision was anything but ordinary. Heavenly Saint Long Xian could feel that the vessel Yi Chun commanded was unlike any mystic vessel she had ever seen. It was even more wondrous than any divine-level vessel she had observed from afar. The divine radiance spilling from the entire vessel was so dazzling that even as a mid-stage heavenly saint, she found it hard to keep her eyes open. And the battle scars that adorned the vessel's dark hull exuded a suppressing force that made even Heavenly Saint Long Xian's spirit tremble with awe. Clearly, the one who had left those battle marks on the vessel must have been an unbelievable powerful being. Clearly, this vessel must have been a mystic vessel of an unbelievable level. It was likely the legendary, heaven-reaching divine artifact. And when Heavenly Saint Long Xian truly accompanied Yi Chun aboard the vessel, witnessing the incredible power that enveloped it as it flew at a speed surpassing most true gods within the second layer of the undersea divine palace, even when they encountered the second type of killing entity on the third level, mighty tray ants that stood 100 zhang tall and intended to block their way, and the vessel shattered countless of them instantaneously into dust, including several tray ants leaders at the level of a third calamity true god. Heavenly Saint Long Xian was absolutely certain. This was indeed a heaven-reaching divine artifact. Yi Chun, the genius youth from the 13 countries of the Southern Territory, had a heaven-reaching divine artifact in his possession. It wasn't until they had reached the entrance of the passageway from the third level of the Undersea Divine Palace to the fourth level and disembarked the heaven-reaching divine artifact that Heavenly Saint Long Xian, still feeling dizzy, managed to recover from the shock of the vessel's power.
Yi Chun.
After stepping off the heaven-reaching divine artifact and feeling a gust of wind blow by, Heavenly Saint Long Xian's dizziness finally dissipated. With gleaming eyes, she looked at Yi Chun. You possess such treasures. With a vessel of this level, we can reach anywhere in the Undersea Divine Palace with due caution, save for its most dangerous levels. You will definitely obtain the Eye of Creation and escape to safety. As long as you escape, there is still hope for our southern territory, even for the entire barbarian wilderness. Heavenly Saint Long Xian had a feeling that Yi Chun, who had always created miracles, would continue to do so within the Undersea Divine Palace. She believed that Yi Chun would surely survive. Yi Chun gravely nodded at Heavenly Saint Long Xian. Not only did he need to survive, but he was also determined to ensure the survival of those around him, and he would strive to enable every heavenly saint in the barbarian wilderness, as well as the heavenly saint true gods from the divine Phoenix clan, to live on. Elder Long Xian, I obtained this vessel from a relic. I will definitely utilize this vessel, along with my capabilities and treasures, to search for the Eye of Creation and the Eye of the Divine Sea to the best of my ability, Yi Chun declared. Please take good care of yourself, Elder Long Xian, and be cautious in everything. Only by staying alive is there hope. Yi Chun could not guarantee that he would obtain the Eye of the Divine Sea, but he did want to remind Elder Long Xian to be vigilant. Otherwise, if Elder Long Xian were to fall within the Undersea Divine Palace, then even if he obtained the Eye of the Divine Sea, he would not be able to save her. Understanding Yi Chun's intention, Heavenly Saint Long Xian gave a lovely smile and nodded gently. Let's go. This passage to the fourth layer of the Undersea Divine Palace, I wonder if it will transport us to different folded spaces separately. In any case, wherever we are sent, we must be cautious. After Heavenly Saint Long Xian finished speaking, she and Yi Chun, who had retracted his flying boat, walked together toward the passage. Whoosh! After a flash of divine light, the two vanished from the third layer of the Undersea Divine Palace. The next moment, Yi Chun had arrived in the fourth layer of the Undersea Divine Palace. The fourth layer of the Undersea Divine Palace was an immensely vast desert world. In the first layer of the Undersea Divine Palace, everyone was drawn into a grand hall. In the second layer, the warriors encountered two murderous life forms, the black armored beast and the black-boned bug. In the third layer, they encountered man-eating plant life forms and a large group of tree people. In this fourth layer, the boundless desert realm, it was clear that there were also murderous life forms present. However, Yi Chun didn't have the time to worry about what murderous life forms were in this fourth layer, nor did he intend to search thoroughly through it. It wasn't just the fourth layer, he even intended to swiftly pass through the fifth layer, to quickly head to the sixth layer of the Undersea Divine Palace to find the sole Eye of Creation in that layer. As expected, I've been separated from Elder Long Xian. Since that's the case, there's no time to lose. Let's quickly search for the passage to the fifth layer of the Undersea Divine Palace. Boom! With a grand gesture, Yi Chun activated the heaven-reaching divine artifact flying boat once again and boarded it. Then, riding the flying boat, he explored the entirety of the fourth layer of the Undersea Divine Palace, searching for the passage to the 5th layer. While Yi-chun was hurriedly heading to the 6th layer of the undersea divine palace on the heaven-reaching divine artifact flying boat, silhouettes of others also sped towards the 6th layer at the highest speed possible. The Flying Spirit Clan's elder, a true god of the 9 tribulations, didn't bother with his clansmen. As soon as he left Rose Valley, he conjured a superior-grade divine artifact flying boat and sped on his way. Being at the realm of the true god of the 9 tribulations, although his flying boat was not as powerful as Yi-chun's heaven-reaching divine artifact flying boat, he could utilize the full power of his superior-grade divine artifact flying boat. His speed was much greater than that of Yi-chun, who could only harness a tiny fraction of the powers of his heaven-reaching divine artifact flying boat. By the time Yi-chun had just reached the 4th layer of the undersea divine palace, the elder of the Flying Spirit Clan had already arrived at the 5th layer and was continuing to search for the passage to the 6th layer. Not only was the speed of the Flying Spirit Clan's elder extraordinarily fast, but the speed of the Vermilion Bird Clan's elder was also no slower than that of the Flying Spirit Clan's elder. They weren't thinking about the Eye of the Divine Sea just yet, but for their own survival, the Eye of Creation was of greater importance to them. They were determined to do whatever it took to seize the sole Eye of Creation in the 6th layer of the undersea divine palace. At this moment, their true natures were revealed. They didn't even care whether their clansmen were alive or dead in these layers. Even when they encountered their own people, they would not stop to take them along. In a life or death situation, they needed to survive, to ensure their own survival first. Clansmen, they were now left behind. In contrast to the Flying Spirit Clan's elder and Vermilion Bird Clan's elder, who were first taking care of themselves, the equally powerful ancient emperor of the Yen clan was constantly looking after his people and was much slower than the 2 great elders of the Flying Spirit and Vermilion Bird clans. And those true gods and heavenly saints who were flying rapidly on their own were not as powerful as the 2 elders of the Flying Spirit and Vermilion Bird clans, and were naturally far behind. In fact, many heavenly saint true gods, while flying at high speeds, were ambushed by murderous life forms and perished directly. The Flying Spirit Clan's elder and Vermilion Bird Clan's elder, who were rushing to the 6th layer of the undersea divine palace, encountered the ancient emperor of the Yen clan on the 5th layer. Seeing even the ancient emperor of the Yen clan being left behind, they felt a surge of excitement. They were confident that, very likely, the first Eye of Creation would fall into their hands. Boom! Boom! When the 2 of them, almost simultaneously, arrived at the 6th layer of the undersea divine palace, ready to begin a thorough search of the entire layer, a voice that crushed their hearts to the depths of despair rang out. They heard a voice echoing throughout the entire undersea divine palace, reaching the ears of all the martial artists who had entered. The first Eye of Creation has been obtained by a martial artist. Of the Eyes of Creation left in the undersea divine palace, there are still 32. Chapter 566, Zhang Yao's Encounter. Stay tuned to Novelbin.com. When the elder clan leaders of the Flying Spirit Clan and the Vermilion Bird Clan heard this voice, they were completely dumbfounded. The first Eye of Creation has already been obtained? How is that possible? Our flying speed is absolutely the fastest among all. Even the ancient emperor of the Yen clan is behind us. Who else could surpass us? Impossible! Impossible! The elder clan leaders of the Flying Spirit Clan and the Vermilion Bird Clan simply refused to believe it. The 2 of them had almost simultaneously flown from the 5th level of the undersea divine palace into the 6th and had been in the same folded space all along. Both of them had thought that the fight for the first Eye of Creation was between the 2 of them, but to their astonishment, someone else had beaten them to it. And it wasn't just a simple case of being beaten to the punch. It meant that their chances of survival had just decreased. In the entire undersea divine palace, there were only 33 life-saving opportunities, and now even the single easiest to obtain survival qualification on the 6th level had been taken by someone else. Only 32 chances to survive remained, and the rest were even deeper within the undersea divine palace. This outcome was something the elder clan leaders of the Flying Spirit Clan and the Vermilion Bird Clan just couldn't accept. For a moment, they remained utterly stupefied upon just entering the 6th level of the undersea divine palace. In a world where flames engulfed everything as far as the eye could see, the Elder Clan leaders of the Flying Spirit Clan and the Vermilion Bird Clan were unable to accept that someone had snatched the Eye of Creation before them. At this moment, in the 5th level of the Undersea Divine Palace, Yi-Chen, who had just encountered a group of heavenly saints from the Heavenly Sacred Palace and was leading them towards the 6th level, was also somewhat stunned. So quickly, the first Eye of Creation has been obtained? Who could be so fast? Could it be one of the 39 Tribulation's true gods, the ancient emperor of the Yen clan, or the Elder Clan leaders of the Flying Spirit Clan and the Vermilion Bird Clan? Yi-Chen didn't know that not only were the Elder Clan leaders of the Flying Spirit Clan and the Vermilion Bird Clan at a loss, even the ancient emperor of the Yen clan was guessing whether it was the 2 Elder Clan leaders who had obtained the Eye of Creation. None of the 3 great 9 Tribulation's true gods had any gain whatsoever. The one who obtained the first Eye of Creation was someone else. At this moment, as all the warriors in the entire Undersea Divine Palace heard that the first Eye of Creation had been claimed and were plunged into shock, in the 6th level of the Undersea Divine Palace, within a world of seas of fire, stood a young beautiful girl in a light blue dress, holding in her hands a crystal-clear, fist-sized, purple-red mysterious crystal inlaid with mysterious magical runes, her delicate face filled with disbelief. Is this the Eye of Creation? The purple-red mysterious crystal in the hands of this stunning girl looked exactly like the Eye of Creation described on the jade slip that all warriors who entered the Undersea Divine Palace had. This purple-red mysterious crystal was none other than the Eye of Creation. The beautiful girl was the one who had obtained the first Eye of Creation. Looking at this stunning girl, one could see her skin was fair and flawless, her face exquisitely beautiful, and especially her pair of bright, clean eyes, pure as the stars. This stunning girl, if not Zhang Yao, then who? Nobody knew that the person who had obtained the first Eye of Creation was Zhang Yao. Even Zhang Yao herself could hardly believe it. After flying out of the 3rd level's Rose Valley of the Undersea Divine Palace, Zhang Yao and True Phoenix headed toward the 4th level. Their speed was not fast compared to many others, and they couldn't even outpace many true gods, let alone the Elder Clan leaders of the Flying Spirit Clan and the Vermilion Bird Clan. Zhang Yao had never even entertained the thought that she would obtain the first Eye of Creation. All she wanted was to make her way downward as quickly as possible to see if she could encounter Yi-Chen. But to Zhang Yao's surprise, after she and the True Phoenix entered the passage from the 3rd to the 4th floor of the Undersea Divine Palace, she didn't get directly transferred into the 4th floor of the Undersea Divine Palace. Instead, she was directly teleported to the 6th floor, and she was directly transmitted onto a fire island in the middle of a fire lake within this fiery sea world, where she immediately saw a strange crystal that closely resembled the Eye of Creation lying on the ground in front of her. Initially, Zhang Yao thought she had arrived at the 4th floor of the Undersea Divine Palace, and that the strange crystal was not the Eye of Creation. But when Zhang Yao picked up the strange crystal, suddenly the whole sky and earth resounded with a voice. The voice announced that the first Eye of Creation had been obtained by a warrior. As the voice rang out, Zhang Yao's mind sensed a strange life force emanating from the odd crystal in her hand. This life force informed Zhang Yao that she had become the master of this Eye of Creation, and she had earned the qualification to escape the Great Purge. In an instant, Zhang Yao knew the strange crystal she had acquired was indeed the first Eye of Creation, within the 6th floor of the Undersea Divine Palace. In a way completely beyond her imagination, she had bypassed the 4th and 5th floors of the Undersea Divine Palace, arriving directly at the 6th floor, and directly before the Eye of Creation. She had arrived faster than the Vermilion Bird Clan and Flying Spirit Clan's elder chieftains, who were swiftly flying through the Undersea Divine Palace floor by floor. What on earth happened? Why did I go from the 3rd floor of the Undersea Divine Palace directly to the 6th floor, and straight to the Eye of Creation, with the Eye of Creation in her hand, her starry, bright eyes filled with confusion and bewilderment? At that moment, something even more unexpected happened to Zhang Yao. In the fire lake where Zhang Yao was on the fire island, The entire expanse of void in front of her was completely torn apart, revealing a passage enveloped by 5 colored lights that suddenly appeared before her. As soon as the passage appeared, an inexplicable force wrapped around Zhang Yao and the Eye of Creation in her hand, drawing her entirely into the passage. In a flash, Zhang Yao disappeared from the 6th floor of the Undersea Divine Palace. The next moment, Zhang Yao found herself in a sealed cave filled with countless runes and symbols on its walls. At the same time, an ancient female voice sounded in Zhang Yao's mind. "Little girl, inscribed within this cave is a set of divine soul secret art called Nirvana 9 Transformations. Although you have obtained the Eye of Creation, if you cannot comprehend this secret art within half a year, I will take back the Eye of Creation I bestowed upon you. Little girl, do not let me down, and come to understand this divine soul secret art." This sudden ancient voice completely astounded Zhang Yao. Divine soul secret art, Nirvana 9 Transformations. Comprehend this art within half a year. Zhang Yao's gaze turned to the countless runes on the walls of the entire sealed cave. What amazed Zhang Yao even more was the identity behind the voice. Did this voice just say it was she who bestowed the Eye of Creation upon her? Who is this voice? And it can control the Eye of Creation? Why did she bring me here? And what place is this cave? Zhang Yao had become completely engulfed in confusion. Chapter 567. While Zhang Yao was engulfed in confusion, if a being of immense power had looked towards the location of the sealed cave dwelling where she was, one would have seen that this sealed dwelling was situated on the very bottom of all 33 levels of the Undersea Divine Palace. Zhang Yao, having obtained the first Eye of Creation on the 6th level, was directly transported by a mysterious force to the deepest, most dangerous, and also the most secret 33rd stratum of the Undersea Divine Palace. Furthermore, it was not just any part of the 33rd stratum. The cave dwelling where Zhang Yao resided was in the most secluded depths of the 33rd stratum in the Undersea Divine Palace, a hidden void realm that was sealed off. This void realm didn't even belong to the 33 strata of the Undersea Divine Palace that all martial artists aspired to explore. It seemed as if it was detached from the Undersea Divine Palace altogether. Looking into the sealed void realm, besides the sealed cave where Zhang Yao was, there were continuous mountain peaks in existence. At this time, 10 figures were seated in meditation at the summit of the highest mountain peak in this void realm. These 10 figures were all female, and among them, 9 radiated an aura similar to that which Yi Chun had encountered in Minor Pole Sky from Divine Venerable Hong Zhu. These 9 figures were actually 9 Divine Venerables, and in the center of the 9 figures, there was an old crone whose aura was even more powerful than that of the 9 Divine Venerables. She was a being that had transcended the level of Divine Venerable. All the martial artists who had been transported to the Undersea Divine Palace could never have imagined that within the most hidden void realm of the 33rd stratum, there were 9 Divine Venerables and even one existence that had surpassed the level of Divine Venerable. Not only would all those martial artists be unaware, but even the myriad murderous life forms banished within the 33 levels of the Undersea Divine Palace would have no knowledge of this power hidden in the deepest areas of the 33rd stratum. Even the 2 major murderous tribes tasked with guarding the dangerous 33rd level of the Undersea Divine Palace had no idea of such beings existing within the same realm. At this moment, after Zhang Yao was transported into the mysterious cave dwelling, those 9 divine venerable figures also looked towards the central figure who had transcended their level. One of them spoke up to the old crone. "Mrs. Why have you brought that young girl into our feathered spirit clan's most precious first stratum secret cave dwelling?" The old crone, surrounded by the 9 divine venerables, had a face full of wrinkles, her age unknown, but her aura was still surging and frightfully powerful. Upon hearing the question of the female divine venerable, the old crone sighed and spoke. "The few of us left the divine beast star domain years ago and blundered into the star death realm, fortuitously saved by Lord Emperor Yen, thus escaping from death's clasp. We promised to oversee the great cleansing catastrophe in the lower realm of the Thousand Veil Mountain star domain for 3 million years on behalf of Lord Emperor Yen. By my calculations, once this catastrophe is over, we will finally have fulfilled the promise we made to Lord Emperor Yen. Upon hearing the old crone's words, the 9 female divine venerables showed excited expressions. Yes, Mrs. He. 3 million years. Even with Lord Emperor Yan's supreme divine art to alleviate the torment of time and the decay of lifespan, these years have been unbearably long. We have overseen 263 great cleansing catastrophes in the lower realms. Our divine avatars combated across countless lower realm stars and continents within the Thousand Veil Mountain star domain. We are truly exhausted. Finally, we are about to fulfill our promise to Lord Emperor Yen and are able to return to our divine beast star domain. After millions of years, the sea turned into mulberry fields, and we don't know what's become of our feathered spirit clan back in the divine beast star domain. Listening to the passionate voices of the 9 female divine venerables, the old crone nodded. For so many years, while completing the task set by Lord Emperor Yen, his supreme divine art has helped us get rid of the torment of time and the eternal decline of lifespan, and similarly, it has kept our realms sealed at the level they were at the time. During these years, while overseeing the great cleansing catastrophe in the lower realm, we refined countless cultivation methods, including those of our feathered spirit clan and the ones we knew from other races. Unfortunately, we were not able to break the seal and cultivate ourselves. After many years of organizing and summarizing, we've made great progress in our clan's cultivation methods from the most fundamental to the most profound. We truly hope to find a suitable successor to truly practice our newly refined cultivation methods. Sadly, all these years, we haven't found a suitable successor. At this point, the old crone's gaze turned towards Jiang Yao in the sealed cave. This young girl carries the lost bloodline of our feathered spirit clan. She must be a descendant of the few members of the Divine Phoenix clan we spared during the last great cleansing catastrophe of the celestial spirit star. The Divine Phoenix clan carries our feathered spirit clan's lost bloodline, likely inherited from the lineage of true divine beasts that once strayed into the Thousand Veil Mountain star domain from our clan in the divine beast star domain. While we oversee the great cleansing catastrophe for Lord Emperor Yen, we absolutely cannot interfere with the eye of the divine sea. But the eye of creation we can actually influence. Over the years, throughout countless cleansing catastrophes in the lower realms, we have covertly aided some martial artists carrying our feathered spirit clan's lost bloodline, but just as aids. These martial artists had such diluted bloodlines that they had no qualification to pass our tests to become our successors. Even those members of the Divine Phoenix clan we aided during the last great cleansing catastrophe didn't meet the conditions to enter our trials. But this time is different. As she spoke, the transcendent being, the old crone, had her eyes shining with exceptional brilliance. Seeing the change in the old woman's eyes, the 9 female divine venerables beside her all looked towards Jiang Yao inside the sealed cave dwelling. An incredulous expression appeared on their faces. Mrs. He, could it be that this little girl has the potential to become our successor? Over the years, we have tested countless individuals, yet no one has been able to pass our trials. This little girl is so young. Can she really meet our standards? The old woman took a deep breath and slowly said, "This young girl from the Divine Phoenix clan, although her feathered spirit clan bloodline is equally thin, gives me the feeling that she is exceptionally suited to practice the arts of our feathered spirit clan. Perhaps, with our return to the feathered spirit clan, we can bring back a true successor of ours. For many years, because we needed to eliminate the torment of time and the perpetual decline of our lifespans, our cultivation has been affected. However, if there is a suitable successor who can practice the new arts we have spent millions of years developing and summarizing, then our trip to the Wanmu Mountain Star Domain will not have been in vain." The 9 female divine venerables had never before seen the being in front of them, this Mrs. He, who far surpassed their own cultivation, value a candidate chosen for the test of succession so highly. For a moment, the gaze of all 9 once again fell on Jiang Yao within the sealed cave dwelling, their hearts filled with the same anticipation. Can this girl truly pass our tests as Mrs. He has said, and become our successor? If she truly can become our successor, then our endless journey back from the Wanmu Mountain Star Domain to the Divine Beast Star Domain will not be so lonely. Zhang Yao had no idea that she had caught the attention of 10 beings far beyond her imagination. She was even more oblivious to the fact that at this moment, she had fallen into a destiny of immense fortune. Zhang Yao's entire focus was on the countless glyphs inscribed on the cave walls within the sealed cave dwelling. Having been bestowed with the Eye of Creation and brought to this mysterious cavern, Zhang Yao knew that the voice that spoke to her must possess boundless divine power. The voice had said that she had only half a year to comprehend the divine soul's secret art, Nirvana 9 transformations, inscribed on the walls. If she failed to penetrate its mysteries, the Eye of Creation in her possession would be reclaimed. Of course, Zhang Yao did not want the Eye of Creation to be taken away. She intended to use it to escape the great cataclysm, to continue being with Yi Chun. How could she simply die in this calamity? Zhang Yao longed even more to see Yi Chun sooner. Of course, she would make every effort to fully master the Nirvana 9 transformations, divine soul's secret art, and leave this mysterious cavern as soon as possible to find Yi Chun. With that thought, Zhang Yao cast aside all distractions and earnestly studied the Nirvana 9 transformations inscribed on the wall. Initially, Zhang Yao had only studied the art out of necessity to meet the demands of that voice. But once she truly began to delve into this divine soul's secret art, she discovered its extraordinary and enigmatic appeal, filled with endless attraction. Before she knew it, Zhang Yao had completely immersed herself in the state of comprehension and cultivation. Yi Chun knew nothing of Zhang Yao's experiences. He wasn't even aware that Zhang Yao had received the first Eye of Creation. At this moment, having entered the 6th layer of the Undersea Divine Palace, a realm of flames, Yi Chun thought of the Eye of Creation that had been taken from the 6th layer and could only continue to descend deeper, towards the 15th layer of the Undersea Divine Palace that housed 8 Eyes of Creation. The first Eye of Creation had already been lost. Yi Chun certainly did not want to lose the chance of obtaining more Eyes of Creation. He still needed to seek as many Eyes of Creation as possible to help himself, to aid Zhang Yao, to assist the true God of the True Phoenix, and to help many others around him to escape this great cataclysm. Every Eye of Creation had to be fought for. Even the Eye of the Divine Sea was imperative to strive for. With this in mind, Yi Chun, maneuvering the heaven-reaching divine artifact flying boat, crossed the realm of flames of the 6th layer of the Undersea Divine Palace, continuing to search for the passageway leading to the even deeper layers. Chapter 568 Gourd of Void Heaven Falling. From the 6th level of the Undersea Divine Palace, to reach the 15th level, one must cross 8 levels, including the 11th level. God King He Mei had previously warned that within the Undersea Divine Palace's 33 levels, every 11 levels represent a tier of difficulty. Once one surpassed the 11th level, for a Heavenly Saint Realm warrior, it was absolutely impossible to set foot there without full reliance. In the previous levels, although there were dangers of true God level, those were after all a minority of realms. As long as one didn't meticulously search every single realm and carefully avoided the true God level dangers, there was still hope for a Heavenly Saint Realm warrior to survive. However, from the words of God King He Mei, it was clear that after passing the 11th level, even with great care, a Heavenly Saint Realm warrior would most likely be doomed. That place was almost reserved for true gods to enter. If a Heavenly Saint Realm warrior wanted to go there, one needed the means of a true god to do so. When the news that the first Eye of Creation from the 6th level had been obtained reached the ears of all the warriors who had entered the Undersea Divine Palace, many Heavenly Saints had completely given up hope. There's no hope left. The next opportunity to compete for the Eye of Creation is on the 15th level. There's no way I can make it to the 15th level with my strength. Waiting for death is all that's left. I can only pin my hopes on the last slim chance. Who obtains the Eye of the Divine Sea can save my life. These Heavenly Saint Realm warriors had lost their fighting spirit and had stopped completely on the 3rd, 4th, or 5th levels they were currently on within the Undersea Divine Palace. Some gave up, but there were also many who absolutely refused to accept defeat. Even though the danger was great beyond the 12th level, still many Heavenly Saints were rushing toward the 11th level. They wanted to see with their own eyes the kinds of dangers present on the 11th level. Only after reaching the 11th level would they consider whether to proceed to the 12th level, to enter realms where only true gods could. It was still too early to give up now. Out of the several 100,000 heavenly saints, the vast majority had completely given up, but there were still tens of thousands of heavenly saints who were still making their way toward the 11th level of the Undersea Divine Palace. The 6th level of the Undersea Divine Palace was the Flame World. Inside there were two deadly lifeform clans, the Flame Elf clan and the Flame War King clan. After passing through the 6th level's domain, they entered the Frost World of the 7th level, the Mountain World of the 8th level, the Hill World of the 9th level, the Death Valley World of the 10th level. They fought through each level, elimination following each tier. In the end, more than 30,000 heavenly saints successfully made their way into the 11th level of the Undersea Divine Palace. As these heavenly saints broke into the 11th level of the Undersea Divine Palace, Yi Chun, who had been riding a heaven-reaching divine artifact airship, had long since arrived amongst the vast realms of the 11th level. Yi Chun flew at great speed through the 11th level, hoping to find the passage to the 12th level quickly, just like he had in the previous levels, and directly enter it. The danger of entering the 12th level? Many heavenly saints were worried, but Yi Chun was determined to enter, not to mention having the combat power of a true god to attempt entry. He already possessed true god-level combat power, and with countless treasures, he already had the confidence to proceed. Even without the confidence to proceed, Yi Chun wouldn't just wait for death. Yi Chun didn't even have a single eye of creation in hand. How could he possibly just wait for death? Just as Yi Chun was flying at high speed in a beige, desolate world within the 11th level of the Undersea Divine Palace, something unexpected happened. Before he found the passage to the 12th level, he unexpectedly discovered a strange realm within the 11th level itself, like the strange realm of Rose Valley encountered in the 3rd level of the Undersea Divine Palace. This new strange realm was clearly a special realm that would bring new and certain adventures to the warriors entering the Undersea Divine Palace. The Undersea Divine Palace, despite the countless killings, also had many hidden treasures. This was also considered giving warriors a little hope while conducting a massive cleansing test. Of course, Yi Chun wouldn't pass by a treasure land without entering. When Yi Chun discovered this strange land, a green island amid the brownish-yellow desolate world, radiating an endless life force, he immediately flew towards the green island. Yi Chun wanted to see what was inside this strange land. After truly entering the green island, the scene before him completely surprised him. From the outside, it appeared to be a green island. But once Yi Chun actually flew into this green island, he found out it was an illusion. It was not as simple as just an island. Instead, it was a vast plain, and above the plain, within the void heaven, hung gigantic gourd vines, from which grew numerous gourds. These gourds, each as large as a millstone, numbered exactly 100 in total. Not one more, not one less. A strange land with 100 heaven-reaching giant gourds. This sight somewhat shocked Yi Chun. Yi Chun didn't understand what was so peculiar about this realm and what these gourds symbolized. As Yi Chun was puzzling over this, a figure appeared directly on one of the hanging gourd vines. This figure was humanoid, but peculiarly had 3 tails, looking quite extraordinary. The presence of this figure shook Yi Chun, for he was emitting the aura of a true god of the 5th tribulation. Seeing Yi Chun as the first to arrive in this strange land, the 5 tribulation true god also expressed his surprise. Young boy, you've managed to reach the void heaven gourd realm so quickly despite being only at the early stage of the heavenly saint realm. It seems you're quite impressive. I, Zhou Lin, have guarded this void heaven gourd realm many times, and you are the warrior with the lowest realm to arrive the fastest. Hearing the words of the 5 tribulation true god with 3 tails, Yi Chun was taken aback. This strange land is called Void Heaven Gourd Realm? This true god has guarded this strange land many times? Yi Chun knew that each great cleansing cataclysm happened tens of thousands of years apart. If this true god had guarded this realm many times, didn't that mean he was a warrior who had lived for hundreds of thousands of years? But seeing that this true god didn't seem to have any malicious intent, Yi Chun relaxed. He asked the true god, Senior, What is so peculiar about this realm? What are these 100 heaven-reaching gourds for? Yi Chun realized that the specialty of this strange land was likely associated with the 100 heaven-reaching gourds. Seeing Yi Chen's bewildered look, the true god smiled faintly and said, "This strange land lies within the 11th layer of the undersea divine palace. In fact, it is an opportunity given by the heavens and earth to all you heavenly saints. Only the heavenly saints pulled in by the great cleansing cataclysm can see this place. Any true gods that are pulled in cannot discover this realm." Hearing the true god's words, Yi Chun was startled. "No wonder I arrived here first, and the ancestors of the Yen clan, the elders of the Flying Spirit clan, and the elders of the Vermilion Bird clan, several Nine Tribulation true gods, haven't made it here. It turns out true gods cannot find this realm. A realm only accessible by heavenly saints? An opportunity for all heavenly saints. What opportunity?" Before Yi Chun could inquire further, the true god continued, "This void heaven gourd realm, as a strange land, possesses a bizarre time-accelerating spatial realm. Inside there are 100 gourds. Entering any one of them will grant you a 100-fold acceleration in the flow of time for cultivation. 100 days of cultivation inside is equivalent to just 1 day passing outside. The undersea divine palace is not an easy place for you heavenly saints to traverse, and reaching the 12th layer below is incredibly difficult. However, just as there are great cleansing tribulations offered by the heavens and earth, there is also a lifeline given to you. As long as you heavenly saints have sufficient strength and seize the opportunity of these 100 gourds for time-accelerated cultivation, advancing into the true God realm is possible. Then, heading to the 12th layer afterwards would not be impossible. 100 gourds, each offering 100-fold time-accelerated cultivation opportunity, await all you heavenly saints here. Any heavenly saint who does not wish to give up and ventures into this realm has the chance to obtain the cultivation opportunity of these 100 gourds." Chapter 569. 100 void heaven-falling gourds, each offering a 100-fold increase in time flow rate for cultivation opportunities. Yi Chun had not anticipated that the undersea divine palace in the beaming divine sea held such divine marvels. As countless heavenly saints faced the grand purge and were close to despair, lacking the strength to proceed to the 12th level of the divine palace, an opportunity like this was left for the heavenly saints on the 11th level. Indeed, if those heavenly saints could successfully ascend to true God within these giant gourds, they would indeed have a certain level of confidence to venture further down into the undersea divine palace. Perhaps there was hope for obtaining the Eye of Creation. Opportunities are truly reserved for those who never give up. If those heavenly saints had stopped earlier, too scared to venture further, or had given up too soon, without reaching this 11th level, they would probably have no idea that such an opportunity awaited them here. To give up on oneself is to be given up on by the undersea divine palace. At this moment, Yi Chun also had a question, which was how long one could cultivate with a 100-fold increase in time flow rate. If one could only cultivate for a few days, then this opportunity wouldn't be too precious. If one could cultivate for a long time, then this opportunity would indeed be invaluable. "Elder, how long can one cultivate inside these gourds with a 100-fold time flow rate?" Yi Chun asked true god Zhou Lin, who was in charge of guarding this void celestial gourd realm. Zhou Lin, the true god with 3 tails, smiled and replied, 1 month. As long as you possess the qualifications to enter these 100 gourds, you can cultivate inside the space of the gourd for 1 month. The space within the gourd contains many preparation resources for ascending to true God. Even if you reach the bottleneck for ascending to true God, you can even attract the heavenly tribulation required for the ascension. This land of wonders is here to assist you heavenly saints in your cultivation. Young lad, cultivating for a month in here is equivalent to cultivating for 3,000 days outside. Over 8 years. More than 8 years. Enough for many to leap in strength substantially. Hearing the words of true god Zhou Lin, Yi Chun also took a deep breath. More than 8 years. 3,000 days. 100-fold time flow rate for a month of cultivation. Yi Chun couldn't help but be shocked and excited. knowing that the most precious time flow rate cultivation site he had ever been to similarly offered 100-fold time flow rate, which was located in the God King level inheritance land, Icebound Temple Subpalace, left behind by the Icebound Divine King. However, even in the Icebound Temple Subpalace, Yichen's 100-fold time flow rate cultivation was limited to only 10 days of cultivation opportunities. Inside this gourd, one could cultivate for a whole month, which is simply 3 times longer than in the Icebound Temple Subpalace. When truly calculated, it amounts to 5 to 6 more years of cultivation. Yichen was well aware of the preciousness of time flow rate cultivation opportunities. It was precisely because of time flow rate cultivation opportunities that he could repeatedly smash through realms at a rapid pace, successfully comprehend martial skills time after time, and accumulate strength. If he were given over 8 more years of cultivation time, then only a month would pass on the outside with plenty of time before the end of the Great Purge. A year away, leaving him ample time to explore even deeper realms. Yichen believed that even if the true gods had a month's time, they couldn't possibly explore too deeply. After all, the undersea divine palace further down was incredibly dangerous. Even 9 tribulations true gods could perish if they were not careful. Clearly, it was impossible to continue leaping directly from one level to the next as before. To spend a month cultivating yet reaping over 8 years of cultivation results, Yichen was naturally willing to cultivate first before venturing further. After all, what Yichen currently lacked was cultivation time. His physical combat power, Icebound Divine Body, and Undying Divine Body all needed cultivating. His true Chi combat power, and even more, the 4th chapter of the primordial star scripture, Primordial Beginning, which could definitively boost his strength, needed cultivation. His divine soul combat power also needed cultivating to strengthen his divine soul, and even his auxiliary combat strength, the 9 volumes of formation array, left by the heavenly origin venerable needed attention. Discover hidden tales at novelbin.com. There was also swordsmanship divine arts, as well as the 3 forbidden moves of the purple blood divine sword. Yichen had too much to cultivate. Each one of these could elevate his strength, allowing him to have more cards up his sleeve within the undersea divine palace. Naturally, Yichen wished to gain this cultivation opportunity inside the gourd. However, it was clear that this opportunity was not something that could be directly obtained. From the words of true God Zhou, Yichen understood that one had to qualify for the privilege to cultivate within the gourd. What were the qualifications to enter the gourd? Unable to restrain his desire to take advantage of the expedited time flow for cultivation offered by the gourd, Yichen asked true God Zhou, the qualification to cultivate inside the gourd? Hearing Yichen's question, true God Zhou answered with a smile, "It's quite simple. Only the strong may enter. This bizarre place is available to every heavenly saint martial artist who dares to venture into the 11th layer of the undersea divine palace. As long as you're a heavenly saint martial artist, after entering the 11th layer and searching for the passageway to explore this layer, you shall discover this peculiar place. Moreover, this peculiar place has no folded space, meaning all heavenly saints, upon reaching the 11th layer, can come here. I will start from the first person who sets foot in this peculiar place and give the others 10 days to break into the 11th layer. After 10 days, all heavenly saints who have arrived at this place will be eligible to compete for the chance to cultivate in one of the 100 gourds. This competition shall be called the Great Martial Contest. The rules of the Great Martial Contest are straightforward. The first 100 to arrive in this place automatically have a reserved chance to enter the gourd for cultivation. Those arriving later will have a single chance to challenge one of the first 100 for their reserved qualification. If they win, they take over the slot. If they lose, they forfeit the opportunity outright. Ultimately, after all challenges are made during the Great Martial Contest, the remaining 100 with reserved qualifications will be the victors and will directly enter the 100 gourds for cultivation. The Great Martial Contest aims to discover martial artists with potential among you brave souls who have reached the 11th layer, to accelerate their cultivation with the time flow rate, and to offer them a chance to brave the later levels of the undersea divine palace. Young man, you are the first one to arrive here. Congratulations, you have effectively earned a reserved qualification. As long as you are not defeated in subsequent challenges, You'll be able to enter the gourd and cultivate for a month with the internal flow rate, which is equivalent to over 8 years of the Undersea Divine Palace's time. The Great Martial Contest. When True God Zhou Lin finished explaining how to qualify for entering the gourd, Yichun nodded in understanding. It turns out that the Great Martial Contest was a test of strength between all heavenly saints who reached the 11th layer and entered this bizarre land. As long as one could succeed in the challenge, they could start cultivating. Yichun wasn't worried about the 100 opportunities. His strength now surpassed that of the heavenly saints and even surpassed that of the first tribulation and second tribulation true gods. He was confident, even if the heavenly saints of the minor spirit realm had some peculiar methods, he would not be concerned. No matter how peculiar the methods, it was almost impossible for them to be stronger than his primordial star scripture, or the techniques he had cultivated from the minor pole sky, let alone 100 opportunities. Even if there were only 10, or even just one, Yichun was confident in seizing them. In the Great Martial Contest, what Yichun needed to do was wait for everyone to arrive for a great trial of strength. In comparison, what Yichun was more concerned about was Zhou Lin's statement that all martial artists who arrived at the 11th layer wouldn't be separated by folded space and could all meet here. Doesn't that mean as long as Zhang Yao, Palace Master Yuan Li, Mu Yao, Palace Master, Skyscraper Palace Master, and Heavenly Saint Long Xian breach into this 11th layer, Yichun could meet them? 10 days of passage to this place. Yichun wasn't entirely sure about Heavenly Saint Long Xian and the others, but he knew that Zhang Yao would definitely have the ability to reach the 11th layer. Yichun, having separated from Zhang Yao in the first layer of the Undersea Divine Palace, had not seen her for a long time and was eagerly wanting to reunite, to discuss the subsequent journey through the Undersea Divine Palace. With this thought, Yichun became filled with anticipation as he waited. What Yichun didn't know was that Zhang Yao had already embarked on another extraordinary encounter, even more exceptional than his own experience in the bizarre land of the Void Heaven Falling Gourd. Moreover, Yichun was unaware that Zhang Yao was now in the 33rd layer of the Undersea Divine Palace and would not return to this 11th layer. As Yichun waited, days passed by. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Continually, more heavenly saints discovered this peculiar place and flew towards it, learning through True God Zhou Lin of the opportunity to cultivate within this piece of Void Heaven Falling Gourd with 100-fold accelerated time flow for a month. All the heavenly saints who arrived at the peculiar land were utterly astounded and overjoyed. They were eagerly gearing up for the Great Martial Contest, preparing to vie for one of the 100 cultivation opportunities. When the 10 days since Yichun's arrival in this strange land surpassed, and the deadline set by True God Zhou Lin for the heavenly saints to enter this bizarre land arrived, the place was teeming with over 30,000 heavenly saints. The Great Martial Contest, the competition for the opportunity to cultivate within the gourd with 100-fold time flow acceleration, was finally about to begin. Chapter 570-. The Challenge of Thousands of Heavenly Saints. When the time for the Grand Martial Arts Tournament arrived, the entire Land of Wonders was already boiling with excitement. Over 30,000 heavenly saints had gathered here, plus 100 divine gourds that had descended from the skies. This scene was truly astonishing, especially for the heavenly saints from the 33 continents. Each and every one of them felt a tremor in their hearts. This was their second encounter with so many powerful beings since they first entered the Undersea Divine Palace, and this time, all of them were martial artists of the same great realm, the Heavenly Saint Realm. In the 33 continents, a continent that had several hundred or even 1,000 heavenly saints was considered very powerful, but here they actually encountered over 30,000 heavenly saints. Find exclusive stories on novelbin.com. In the 33 continents, if a continent had about 10 late-stage heavenly saint powerhouses, that would be utterly inconceivable. Yet here, there were over 1,000 late-stage heavenly saints alone. The addition of the minor spirit realm's heavenly saints certainly filled countless heavenly saints from the 33 continents with awe, admiration, reluctance, and even the thought of challenging them. And now, as the Grand Martial Arts Tournament was about to officially start, everyone would be able to showcase their strengths and see who was the strongest. In the crowd, amidst the boiling fervor, Yichun, however, was somewhat worried. At this moment, Palace Master Yuan Li, Muyao Palace Master, Skyscraper Palace Master were all by Yi Chen's side, and even Heavenly Saint Long Xian had hurried to this land of wonders the day before the start of the tournament. But Yi Chen had not seen Jiang Yao. This, of course, made Yi Chen extremely anxious. Moreover, Yi Chen heard from many heavenly saints who had seen Jiang Yao that they hadn't seen her since the 3rd level, and this made Yi Chen even more worried that Jiang Yao had encountered danger. For a moment, the start of the Grand Martial Arts Tournament made it difficult for Yi Chen to stay calm. Amidst Yi Chen's extreme concern, True God Zhou Lin, who presided over this land of wonders, finally declared the Grand Martial Arts Tournament officially underway. The tournament rules dictated that the first 100 heavenly saints who arrived at this land as reserves were to accept challenges. Others can challenge them, but each person only has one chance to challenge, so you must choose carefully whom you want to challenge. Once chosen, you cannot change it. If you lose, you will have no more opportunities to challenge. True God Zhou Lin began to explain the rules of the Grand Martial Arts Tournament to everyone. Although these rules had spread through word of mouth over the days, and everyone was aware of them, hearing True God Zhou Lin repeat them still made many people nervous all at once. An opportunity to cultivate inside a divine gourd for a month with 100-fold acceleration of time flow. Who wouldn't want it? Everyone, of course, wanted to compete for it. Now, the first 100 who came to this land of wonders, I told you before, you who obtained the position of reserves, step forward. True God Zhou Lin said, looking at martial artists like Yi Chen, who were among the first to arrive at the land of wonders. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. One figure after another flew forward, stepping out. These figures, the vast majority of whom were late-stage Heavenly Saint Realm martial artists, with a very few being mid-stage, and early-stage Heavenly Saints like Yi Chen were absolutely rare. There was only Yi Chen. Seeing Yi Chen, who was only at the beginning of the Heavenly Saint Realm, among the potential candidates, many were shaken. This young man, he actually arrived at the land of wonders among the first 100? He's only at the early stage of being a heavenly saint. How could he arrive so fast? Even though I'm at the later stage of heavenly saint, I had to proceed with extreme caution through the undersea divine palace, encountering several crises that almost killed me. When I finally arrived here, there were already thousands of people who had come before me. This young man, who's merely at the early stage, came even faster than me. An existence at the later stage of Heavenly Saint who hadn't qualified as a backup candidate was shocked. This young man must have relied on some special flying treasure to get here so quickly, otherwise it would be impossible. However, even if a flying treasure helped him arrive among the first 100, it won't assist him in battle. The real competition relies on strength. Even if he is a candidate now, being only at the early stage of Heavenly Saint, he will definitely be defeated by others. Some were certain. What those at the later stage of Heavenly Saint didn't know was that Yi Chen was not only among the first 100 to arrive at this land of wonders, but he was also the very first person to arrive. Those heavenly saints who knew the truth and had arrived shortly after Yi Chen, especially the first 10 to reach the land of wonders, watched the situation unfold around Yi Chen with excitement, eager for the drama. They too were curious about why this young heavenly saint arrived before them and wanted to see just what abilities he possessed. Meanwhile, those in the crowd who knew Yi Chen best, such as Palace Master Yuan Li, Muyao Palace Master, Skyscraper Palace Master, and others, started to smile when they saw many were itching to challenge Yi Chen. They, of course, knew Yi Chen's strength. These people want to challenge Yi Chen? Then their one opportunity to challenge will be wasted. Palace Master Yuan Li thought to himself. As discussions buzzed among the crowd, True God Zhou Lin announced, to test your judgment, the selection of opponents for the grand competition must be done first, before beginning the contest. If a candidate is defeated, the victor automatically takes their place as a candidate and continues to accept challenges from others within the same area. Now, the 100 backup candidates stand under the 100 gourds, representing your challenge areas. The rest of you, choose your opponents from these 100 candidates and decide which area you want to challenge. Boom! 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 As True God Zhou Lin declared the start of the opponent selection, and candidates like Yi Chen took their positions under the magical gourds, over 30,000 heavenly saints rushed towards the 100 candidates. Among them, those flowing towards Yichun to pick him as their challenge area were the most numerous. In the arena, Yichun, with the lowest realm and the sole early-stage heavenly saint candidate, naturally drew the most attention. Even though some presumed that Yichun must possess strong methods to be among the first 100 to reach this 11th layer of the Land of Wonders, among the 100 candidates present, which one wasn't formidable? Which one lacked methods? Which one hadn't passed through countless tests to get here? Compared to many later-stage heavenly saints with renowned reputations in the minor spirit realm, they naturally preferred to challenge the early-stage heavenly saint, Yichun. In a moment, out of more than 30,000 warriors, those who flooded into Yichun's challenge area numbered as many as 5,000 or 6,000. In contrast, in the areas of some later-stage heavenly saints with big names from the minor spirit realm, there were only a few or at most a dozen challengers. In the other 90-something candidate areas, the most anyone had challenging them was a little over 500. The number of heavenly saints choosing to challenge Yichun was 10 to 100 times more than those opting to challenge other candidates. And if it weren't for the overwhelming crowd surging towards Yichun, which made it impractical, as even if one defeated Yichun, the strength of subsequent replacement candidates might vary too greatly, increasing the risk of victory. Probably over 20,000 of the 30,000 would choose to challenge Yichun. Even so, there were still quite a few who had to choose other heavenly saints' challenge areas, and they lamented in their hearts. What a pity! The area around that early-stage heavenly saint was too crowded. Otherwise, defeating that young early-stage heavenly saint would have been an absolute certainty. Chapter 571 Wailing Heavenly Saints. Yichun, surrounded by 5,000 or 6,000 heavenly saints eager to challenge him, could only helplessly shake his head at this moment. Especially one very old late-stage heavenly saint warrior, seeing Yichun constantly frowning with a look of worry and concern, said to Yichun, "Little guy, stop worrying. After I defeat you, I'll take your place. I'll be the ultimate candidate to enter the magical gourd for cultivation in this area." The words of this late-stage heavenly saint elder made Yichun feel both amused and helpless. He was clearly worried about Zhang Yao, but to these heavenly saints it seemed as if he was worried about being defeated by others. Thinking of Zhang Yao, Yichun could only keep his worries and concerns in his heart in the end. For one thing, there were countless folded spaces inside the undersea divine palace, making it impossible for him to search for Zhang Yao. Secondly, there was not the slightest stir from the crimson fire flying sword within Yichun's sword palace acupoint. His crimson fire flying sword was a twin to Zhang Yao's ghostly water flying sword. If Zhang Yao were in real danger, he should have been able to sense it. Lastly, even if the undersea divine palace blocked this kind of sensing, Yichun still believed in Zhang Yao's skills, her strength. Not only did Zhang Yao have the divine Phoenix clan's treasure, but she also had the heaven-reaching divine artifact, Ice Snow Divine Sword, given to her by Bing Yi. With so many heavenly saints making it to the 11th layer of the undersea divine palace without incident, Yichun believed that nothing would happen to Zhang Yao either. In the midst of various emotions, Yichun could only keep his worries about Zhang Yao in his heart and look for an opportunity to find her later. Now, he had to deal with these challengers first. 5,924 challengers? With a sweep of his divine sense, Yichun ascertained the exact number of heavenly saints challenging him. Frustrated about Zhang Yao's situation, Yichun thought to himself, "Let me relieve some frustration with these challengers." Yichun's thoughts were unknown to these challengers. These people were crowding Yichun's challenge area, all itching to fight. When True God Zhou Lin announced the start of the Grand Martial Contest challenges across the 100 zones, an early-stage heavenly saint warrior jumped out in front of Yichun first. "I'll challenge you first, young man." Seeing this early-stage heavenly saint warrior leap forward, quite a few heavenly saints muttered with envy, "He got ahead of us." "Humph, it doesn't matter. We all have to face a challenge in this area anyway. If he wins first, we can still beat him." With this thought, the heavenly saints calmed down. Yichun looked at the early-stage heavenly saint warrior who had jumped out with a smug look and said indifferently, "Well, with over 5,900 challengers, it seems I'll need to make this quick." "What?" The casual words of Yi Chun took the early-stage Heavenly Saint Challenger by surprise. Then, what Yi Chun said next sent him into a towering rage. He heard Yi Chun tell him, 10 breaths time. I will defeat you within 10 breaths. Make your move or you'll lose the chance to attack altogether. Don't waste time. Defeat him in 10 breaths time. No chance to make a move if he doesn't take action. A waste of time. Upon hearing Yi Chun's words, this early-stage Heavenly Saint warrior was furious. Explore more at novelbin.com. He'd confidently taken the initiative to challenge because he was somewhat certain of his own strength. Although he did not come from one of the 6 ancient clans of the Minor Spirit Realm, he hailed from a powerful force with true God Realm experts who had endured 2 tribulations, and even facing late-stage Heavenly Saint warriors, he was not the least bit daunted. Even if he wasn't certain he could make it to the end, he still had the confidence to occupy a spot among the alternatives for a while, to prove his might. Now, he was being looked down upon by an early-stage Heavenly Saint youth, told that a match with him was a waste of time. Of course, his heart was ablaze with anger. 10 breaths? Humph, young man. I'll see what abilities you have to speak such big words. Boom! With his anger surging, the early-stage Heavenly Saint warrior instantly unleashed a terrifying Heavenly Saint force and, with an aggressive move, charged towards Yi Chun. Even though Yi Chun had spoken quietly, everyone present in the arena had the cultivation of the Heavenly Saint realm and heard everything crystal clear. As they saw this early-stage Heavenly Saint warrior make his move, all the Heavenly Saints outside the combat ring turned their gazes towards Yi Chun to see how this slightly arrogant youth would defend himself. True God Zhou Lin, hovering in the void, also looked towards Yi Chun. True God Zhou Lin wanted to see what was exceptional about this young man who had been the first to reach the strange land. Even the likes of Palace Master Yuan Li, Muyao Palace Master, and Heavenly Saint Long Xian, who were standing at the outskirts of other fighters' challenge zones and had not yet started their own challenges, turned their eyes toward Yi Chun, and several alternative late-stage Heavenly Saint warriors, who were fighting, also looked over towards the busiest circle, where Yi Chun was the center of attention. Beneath countless watching eyes, as the first early-stage Heavenly Saint warrior charged towards him, Yi Chun muttered a number to himself, 5 breaths. Then he took action. Before all the Heavenly Saints could grasp what was happening, the early-stage Heavenly Saint warrior who had lunged at Yi Chun was sent flying back even faster than he had approached, finally crashing down onto the ground with a thunderous impact. The early-stage Heavenly Saint warrior couldn't even get back up, lying on the ground groaning in pain. What happened? What's going on? All the Heavenly Saints watching Yi Chun's area blinked and saw the early-stage Heavenly Saint Challenger defeated in the blink of an eye. They hadn't even reacted, and the battle was already over. They hadn't even seen clearly how Yi Chun had defeated that mid-stage Heavenly Saint Realm warrior. Outside the crowd, in the void, True God Zhou Lin inhaled sharply at this moment. As a true god of the 5 tribulations, he had clearly seen Yi Chun's move. He could sense that in the blink of an eye, Yi Chun had used an extremely powerful attacking divine technique, and obviously, Yi Chun hadn't even used his full strength before he instantly defeated the challenger from the mid-stage Heavenly Saint realm. This young lad, he's got great strength. No wonder he's the first to break into this void celestial gourd realm. His true combat power has likely reached the level of a true god of the 2 tribulations, or even the 3 tribulations. True God Zhou Lin was guessing. While countless Heavenly Saints were confused and shaken, and True God Zhou Lin was surprised, Yi Chun turned to look at all the Heavenly Saints in front of him, and then to the first challenger who had fallen to the ground. Do you concede? If so, the rest can continue to fight, no need to waste time. There are more than 5,000 warriors here, and it will take some time for me to defeat them all. This time, when Yi Chun mentioned not to waste time again, the Heavenly Saints who previously thought Yi Chun was a bit arrogant were now silent. Even though they hadn't seen clearly how Yi Chun had defeated the mid-stage Heavenly Saint Realm warrior in the first battle, as warriors of the Heavenly Saint Realm, their knowledge was extensive, and now it was clear to them that this young man was not to be trifled with. This young man might truly have the ability to be arrogant. I accept the challenge. Seeing that the fallen mid-stage Heavenly Saint Realm warrior couldn't even get up, another late-stage Heavenly Saint Realm warrior stood out. I come from the Blood God clan of the Minor Spirit Realm. Lad, you're thinking too much if you say you will defeat us all. Remember, the one who will defeat you is called Crimson Source Heavenly Saint. The late-stage Heavenly Saint Realm warrior spoke directly. Crimson Source Heavenly Saint. He is a well-known late-stage Heavenly Saint from the Blood God clan, and it's said that he has a great chance to break through to the true God realm in the future. In this challenge area, the most powerful one I know of is him. He very well might end up owning the final cultivation spot of our area. Even if the young lad is powerful, he is unlikely to be a match for Crimson Source Heavenly Saint. Countless Heavenly Saint Realm warriors who knew the name of Crimson Source Heavenly Saint were whispering among themselves. Amid the low whispers of these Heavenly Saint Realm warriors, Yi-chan looked at Crimson Source Heavenly Saint and smiled. Crimson Source Heavenly Saint? Since you've come to challenge, then make your move. Similarly, within 10 breaths time. Again, 10 breaths time. Hearing Yi-chan mention 10 breaths time again, the Heavenly Saints paying attention to Yi-chan no longer thought he was simply arrogant. Some even thought he was utterly clueless about the difficulties of reality. To know, Crimson Source Heavenly Saint was a late-stage Heavenly Saint Realm warrior, and furthermore, one who had the hope of advancing to the true God realm. Defeat Crimson Source Heavenly Saint in 10 breaths time? Even the top-tier late-stage Heavenly Saints wouldn't dare to make such a boastful claim. While these Heavenly Saints found Yi-chen's bold words unbelievable, Crimson Source Heavenly Saint's face swelled red with blood. Feeling both called an elder by Yi-chan, and also told he would be defeated within 10 breaths, which left him feeling incredibly frustrated, unable to vent his anger. Only by defeating Yi-chan could he release this pent-up frustration. With this thought, Crimson Source Heavenly Saint didn't wish to speak another word, and his figure flashed and vanished into thin air. As he disappeared, a Heavenly Saint who knew about Crimson Source Heavenly Saint's techniques spoke out directly. Crimson Source Heavenly Saint has a set of powerful void-shifting techniques that are extremely hard to guard against. The moment he appears will be the moment he strikes to kill. Before the Heavenly Saint could finish speaking, he abruptly stopped. For he was shocked to see that the moment Crimson Source Heavenly Saint disappeared, the young man opposite him, Yi-chan, reached out towards a spot in the empty space to his left. This grasp actually pulled out the hidden and vanished Crimson Source Heavenly Saint out of thin air. What left all the Heavenly Saints who had previously marveled at Crimson Source Heavenly Saint's strength dumbstruck was that the young lad, with a strong swing of his hand, caused the formidable Crimson Source Heavenly Saint they revered to, just like the first challenger, be completely unable to resist and be slammed to the ground with the same method. In the end, Crimson Source Heavenly Saint lay on the ground wailing continuously, struggling to stand up, but completely unable to do so. Seeing this, how could the Heavenly Saints present not understand Yi-chen's strength? This young man, it wasn't a case of not knowing the immensity of heaven and earth. Clearly, he possessed a combat power many times stronger than Crimson Source Heavenly Saint. And thinking that they too stood within this challenge area. Recalling their own earlier thoughts of defeating this young man and occupying the reserved spot. The more than 5,900 Heavenly Saints who hadn't yet challenged Yi-chan wailed in their hearts. It was over. They had chosen the wrong person to challenge. Chapter 572. Next, who will challenge me? As Yi-chan spoke out, asking the Heavenly Saints in the area, many Heavenly Saints even swooshed, directly scared into retreating several steps back. This situation, compared to earlier when these people were desperately vying to challenge Yi-chan and complained incessantly when they were not the first to get the opportunity to fight him, formed a stark contrast. At this time, the Heavenly Saints looked nothing like they were eager and warming up for battle. After Yi-chan had defeated a mid-stage Heavenly Saint warrior and the powerful late-stage Crimson Source Heavenly Saint, having realized Yi-chen's true strength, they no longer harbored any thoughts of underestimating Yi-chan like before. No, it was not just a lack of underestimation. Many of them didn't even want to face Yi-chan anymore. They certainly didn't want to end up like Crimson Source Heavenly Saint, who was beaten to the ground, unable to even stand up, nor did they want to humiliate themselves with involuntary cries of pain in front of everyone. For a time, these over 5,900 heavenly saints eerily quieted down, with not a single one stepping forward to challenge Yi-chun. No more challengers? Yi-chun looked at the quiet crowd, smiled slightly, and then said to true god Zhou Lin in the void celestial gourd, "Senior, if there are no more challenges, does that mean I've won?" True god Zhou Lin was extremely shaken by Yi-chun's strength. At this moment, hearing Yi-chun's words, he smiled and nodded to Yi-chun, then said to all the heavenly saints in Yi-chun's area, "If no one challenges, then it will be considered that you have given up on this challenge opportunity. The final candidate from your area to enter the void celestial gourd for cultivation will be Yi-chun." True god Zhou Lin's words left many heavenly saints in a conundrum, afraid they would look bad if they lost the challenge, and feeling it too wasteful to give up the opportunity directly. They hesitated even more. Eventually, many heavenly saints made up their minds and gave up the challenge. After all, they knew their own strength. Compared to the Crimson Source heavenly saints, they were obviously inferior and had no chance of winning the spot to enter the void celestial gourd for cultivation in this area. Their strength, even among all the areas, was not good enough to be ranked at the front and have a chance at one of the 100 cultivation opportunities. Earlier, they had wanted to demonstrate their power against Yi-chun, but now they simply gave up. Many heavenly saints gave up, but there were still some who were unwilling to waste the chance. In the end, another late-stage heavenly saint warrior stood up to challenge Yi-chun. As expected, Yi-chun defeated this late-stage heavenly saint warrior within a single move. Eventually, even after consecutive challenges from a dozen or so people, Yi-chun didn't use a second move at all. Having resolved each opponent with a single strike, all the heavenly saints in the area knew that none of them was a match for Yi-chun. Even the strongest, top-tier late-stage heavenly saint warriors were no match. Finally, of the 5,924 heavenly saints who chose to challenge Yi-chun, only a little more than 50 actually fought. The rest all gave up the challenge. After all, nearly all of those 50+ who fought Yi-chun were late-stage heavenly saint warriors. Even if they weren't late-stage warriors, they were famously formidable mid-stage warriors, but all these people were defeated, which naturally deterred everyone else from challenging and led to the subsequent warriors giving up on the challenge straight away. In the end, even though Yi-chun's area had the most contestants for challenges, it was almost the first to finish the fights, completely confirming the candidate to enter the void celestial gourd for cultivation. Yi-chun, starting as a reserve candidate, had successfully held his position till the end, gaining the spot to cultivate inside the void celestial gourd for 1 month at a time flow rate 100 times that of the outside. Yi-chun, faced with the challenge of 5,924 heavenly saints, still came out smiling in the end. Once Yi-chun's area had completed the challenges, the rest, who had been keeping an eye on Yi-chun's movements, were tremendously shocked by his strength. They stopped observing Yi-chun and began their own grand matches against the warriors challenging them. In the end, the results of challenges from various regions kept coming in. More than half of the initial candidates came out smiling in the end. Having the ability to arrive at this mystical realm in the first place, it was not difficult for them to seize one of the 100 training opportunities. Of course, a small number of the initial candidates lost to the challenging heavenly saints in subsequent challenges, leading to a fresh turnover of contenders who would be entering the void celestial gourd for training within their regions. Among the heavenly saints familiar to Yi-chun, Palace Master Yuan Li unsurprisingly secured one of the 100 opportunities effortlessly. Nevertheless, it was unfortunate for Mu Yao Palace Master and Skyscraper Palace Master. Even though they overcame numerous opponents, they could not hold out till the end and thus lost the chance to train inside the void celestial gourd. Heavenly Saint Long Xian also failed to make it to the end. Among the true warriors of the barbaric wilderness continent, only Yi-chun and Palace Master Yuan Li successfully secured 2 spots. The other 32 continents of the lower realm only snagged about a dozen places. The senior elder of Heavenly Fire Holy Land, who once accompanied Little Saint Huomeyer of the Leaving Fire Continent, and the 2 powerhouses from Heavenly Evolution Continent, who escorted Yi-chun and others into the 5 Elements Mountain Mystery Heavenly Saint and the Ancestral Master, as well as ancestral master Minghua from Purple Dawn Continent, all obtained a precious spot. The vast majority of the remaining spots were dominated by the late-stage heavenly saints from the minor spiritual realms. Once the final 100 training spots were settled, True God Zhou Lin spoke to the crowd from the void. The 100 chosen ones to enter the void celestial gourd may start their training from today. As he spoke, divine light shimmered in his hand, and 100 tokens flew into the hands of the 100 victorious martial artists, including Yi Chun. These are the tokens to enter the void celestial gourd. With these tokens, you can train within. Once the training period ends, you will be automatically expelled. After arranging for the 100 victorious heavenly saints, True God Zhou Lin turned to the others. Those who wish to stay and train in this region may do so. Although this region does not offer the chance of accelerated time flow like within the void celestial gourd, the heaven and earth true chi here is also quite extraordinary, and cultivating here should yield some results. Those who do not wish to train here may continue venturing into the deeper 12th layer of the Undersea Divine Palace or return to the previous levels. However, for you heavenly saints wanting to challenge deeper layers of the Undersea Divine Palace, I need not stress the increased danger. You are undoubtedly well aware of it. Whichever choice you make is entirely up to you. Now, go forth and act on your decisions. After True God Zhou Lin finished speaking, he gave Yi Chun, who was among the crowd, a smiling nod before vanishing from sight. Subsequently, over 30,000 heavenly saints bid farewell to each other and made their own choices. Those who chose to leave the region flew away, those who stayed started their training immediately, and many of the 100 who had access to the void celestial gourd could hardly wait and swiftly flew into it. Your next read is at Novel Bin. Calm. After speaking with Mu Yao Palace Master, Skyscraper Palace Master, Heavenly Saint Long Xian, and the others, Yi Chun finally looked with Palace Master Yuan Li towards the 100 gourds hanging from the void. 1 month with 100-fold acceleration of time for training. That's equivalent to more than 8 years of cultivation time. I can finally start a thorough and invigorating period of intense cultivation. Such a lengthy period of cultivation was even longer than the total time Yi Chun had spent training from the beginning of the True Chi realm. Yi Chun had long been looking forward to a proper period of cultivation. Whoosh! Whoosh! After exchanging a glance with Palace Master Yuan Li, Yi Chun moved swiftly, each choosing one of the gourds descending from the void and, using their tokens, shot into the void celestial gourd. Chapter 573. From the outside, each void celestial gourd was as big as a millstone, which was unbelievably huge compared to a normal gourd. But when Yi Chun actually entered the interior of the void celestial gourd, he found that the space inside was even larger. A cultivation treasure land with a square circumference of 10,000 zhong. Within the entire cultivation treasure land, one couldn't feel any change in the time flow rate. One could only sense the dense true chi everywhere, so rich that it converged into several heaven and earth true chi spirit ponds within this treasure land, emitting dazzlingly brilliant true chi divine light. It was not just the true chi that was extremely dense. The whole cultivation treasure land was also full of the flashing breath of countless laws, and one could even sense the mysterious aura of the space law and time law. Even the lightning of the heavenly tribulation, which strikes during the crossing of the tribulation, flickered in and out among the clouds of this treasure land, as if the moment of the tribulation's assault was imminent. It could induce the descent of the heavenly tribulation. After observing the cultivation treasure land within the void celestial gourd, Yi Chun flew directly to a spiraling cultivation platform surrounded by several heaven and earth true chi spirit ponds and immediately sat down cross-legged. After pondering the things he intended to cultivate, Yi Chun began his thorough cultivation on the cultivation platform. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. While only 11 days had passed on the outside, more than 3 years had elapsed within the void celestial gourd. And as time passed on the outside, Yi Chun's arduous cultivation within the void celestial gourd continued. While Yi Chun, Palace Master Yuan Li, and countless heavenly saints had started their cultivation spanning over 8 years inside, and just a month outside on the 11th floor of the Undersea Divine Palace, countless true gods had already crossed the 11th floor, entering the depths of the undersea divine palace below. Upon entering the deeper areas, beginning with the 12th floor, all true gods discovered that the difficulty level of the entire undersea divine palace had suddenly surged dramatically. Even at the passages leading to the levels below, each was guarded by numerous fearsome lethal life forms. At this time, attempting to traverse the undersea divine palace relied not on luck or timely avoidance of danger, but on sheer strength to penetrate deeper into the palace. Suddenly, the speed at which all true gods tackled the undersea divine palace slowed considerably. There were even many true gods who continuously fell within the undersea divine palace, and the heavenly saints who ventured into the 12th floor and lower levels of the undersea divine palace were almost all killed. Even the ancient emperor of the Yen clan, the elder chieftain of the Flying Spirit clan, and the elder chieftain of the Vermilion Bird clan, 3-9 Tribulation's true gods, faced danger several times, greatly slowing their pace through the undersea divine palace. When the 3-9 Tribulation's true gods reached the 14th floor of the undersea divine palace, with the opportunity to enter the 15th floor where 8 eyes of creation were present, they encountered a God-King level rock giant that stood over 5,000 zhang tall at the entrance to the passage from the 14th to the 15th floor. Around the rock giant was a massive chessboard with a square circumference of 1,000 zhang. On the chessboard were 32 chess pieces, which were none other than rock warriors. Intruders, if you wish to pass this level and enter this slaughter chess game, you must battle with my clansmen. Only by conquering this slaughter chess game will you be qualified to enter the 15th floor. Under the demands of the Divine King, the ancient emperor of the Yen clan, the elder chieftain of the Flying Spirit clan, and the elder chieftain of the Vermilion Bird clan, 3-9 Tribulation's true gods, dared not disobey. After they successively flew into the chessboard, they astonishingly found that the entire board was governed by an incredible space law. The entire chessboard was actually a vast killing field. Within the vast killing field, there were 32 true god-level rock warriors, each guarding one of the 32 checkpoints. And there were 2 rock warriors at the 9 Tribulation's true god level. The ancient emperor of the Yen clan, the elder chieftain of the Flying Spirit clan, and the elder chieftain of the Vermilion Bird clan. Each confronted the challenge of the 32 checkpoints alone. These rock warriors would not attack them proactively, but as soon as they stepped into the guarding range of these rock warriors, they would be immediately attacked. For a time, the 3-9 Tribulation's true gods were intercepted within the vast space of the slaughter chessboard. The true gods that followed, entering the 14th floor, all entered the slaughter chessboard space separately, each facing the test of the 32 checkpoints and the 32 rock warriors. Stay updated with novelbin.com. The quest of countless true gods through the undersea divine palace was for the moment halted at the 14th floor. Outside the slaughter chessboard, the God-King level rock giant watched the billowing smoke within the vast world of the slaughter chessboard with divine eyes, observing the intruding martial artists as they became entangled within the immense world of overlapping spatial dimensions. His voice murmured outside the slaughter chessboard realm. The slaughter chess game, 32 levels. Each level has a life path and a death path. If one fails to break through the life path and falls into the death path, even a 9 Tribulation's true god would die within. Of course, if one possesses absolute wisdom to break the life path, then even those with strength inferior to my kin can pass through this slaughter chess game. To live or die, whether or not you can break through this chess game and enter the 15th layer, it now depends on the fortune of you martial artists. After murmuring to himself, the God-King level rock giant's divine eyes were projected toward the 11th layer of the undersea divine palace, seemingly waiting for something. The 11th layer of the undersea divine palace. Within the void celestial gourd where Yi-Chun was located. 8 years passed in the blink of an eye. In this period, Yi-Chun had been immersed in arduous cultivation. He only actively moved a few times. And these few times were precisely when Yi-Chun confirmed the great accomplishment of each cultivation technique he practiced in solitude. During the first year of cultivation inside the void celestial gourd, the cultivation technique Yi-Chun confirmed was the physical combat power skill, Icebound Divine Body. To truly cultivate the Icebound Divine Body, it was divided into 9 volumes. each corresponding to the assimilation of divine energy from 9 ice-sealed divine stars. Within 1 year, Yi Chun cultivated the icebound divine body directly to the 4th volume, reaching a bottleneck where he could no longer continue before ceasing. Then, Yi Chun began the cultivation of the undying divine body. For the undying divine body, Yi Chun only had the first 3 volumes obtained from Minor Polsky, and it was even more formidable than the icebound divine body. After spending a year and a half, Yi Chun finally succeeded in completely cultivating the 3 volumes in his hands. Upon successful cultivation of these 3 volumes, Yi Chun's physical combat power and recovery capabilities reached an incredibly terrifying stage. He also earned the opportunity to meet Lord Tianyun and obtain the further cultivation methods for the undying divine body. After 2.5 years spent cultivating 2 mighty means of physical combat power, Yi Chun began to assault the true Qi combat power means. Over the remaining 5 to 6 years, besides contemplating the 9 volumes of Formation Array and the 3 forbidden moves of the Purple Blood Divine Sword, Yi Chun dedicated almost all his energy to the cultivation of true Qi techniques. In these 5 to 6 years of strenuous cultivation, his true Qi combat power means improved even more than his physical combat power means. During the cultivation of the 4th chapter of the Primordial Star Scripture, the Primordial chapter, over 5 to 6 years, Yi Chun had created a total of 465 stellar vortex spaces within his body, drawing in the power of 465 stars from the stellar divine diagram. At this point, Yi Chun, wielding the stellar power to execute the 5 great divine arts, could easily obliterate a 4 tribulations true god. Furthermore, with the creation of stellar vortex spaces within his body, Yi Chun's cultivation of the space law within his body was greatly advanced. This significant advancement allowed Yi Chun to step into the mid-stage of the Heavenly Saint in the 7th year of cultivation. It's known that advancing from the early stage to the mid-stage of a Heavenly Saint is extremely difficult, requiring the understanding of external space laws to the insight of internal space laws. Many early-stage Heavenly Saints spend their entire lives unable to achieve this feat. However, amidst the creation of stellar vortex spaces during the cultivation of the Star Scripture and the boost provided by the Primordial chapter to space law, Yi Chun took just over 6 years to leap from the early stage to the mid-stage of Heavenly Saint. Yi Chun had now, leveraging the time flow rate of the Void Celestial Gourd, soared directly into the mid-stage of Heavenly Saint, becoming a powerful mid-stage Heavenly Saint. In addition to significant leaps in both physical combat power means and true Qi combat power means, even without dedicated cultivation, Yi Chun's divine soul also grew considerably stronger. Moreover, Yi Chun made major breakthroughs in the remaining 9 volumes of Formation Array and the 3 forbidden moves of the Purple Blood Divine Sword. More than 8 years. 3,000 days of relentless cultivation, transforming countless martial skills and cultivation techniques into genuine combat means. Yi Chun truly welcomed his own great metamorphosis, a transformation of combat power level. Boom! When all the cultivation time was completely used up and Yi Chun, along with the other 99 cultivators, were expelled from the Void Celestial Gourd, there was not much change in Yi Chun's appearance, as if the more than 8 years had left no trace on him. However, Yi Chun's entire aura had undergone a completely different transformation. If Yi Chun were to fully release his aura, it is likely that countless 5 tribulations and 6 tribulations true gods, who could be considered powerful in the minor spirit realm of the upper realm, would shudder with fear. They would tremble with awe. Chapter 574-Junan's Challenge. 100 figures emerged from the Void Celestial Gourd and returned to the land of wonders outside, each wearing a different expression. More than 8 years of cultivation had been a lengthy period of arduous training, yet the harvests for the 100 individuals were diverse. The vast majority of people, apart from their true Qi becoming slightly more condensed, had no other changes. It wasn't surprising, since many of these Heavenly Saint Realm martial artists had practiced for thousands of years. Some had even stayed in the same minor realm for over hundreds of years. If they hadn't broken through their realm after staying for hundreds of years, how could it be possible to break through after just over 8 years of cultivation? These people emerged from the Void Celestial Gourd with somewhat disappointed expressions on their faces. After all, having not succeeded in breaking through to the True God realm, they lacked the confidence to continue venturing into the stages ahead in the undersea divine palace, with little assurance of even exploring the closest 12th layer. Of course, there was also a small group of individuals whose faces revealed uncontrollable delight. Some of them had made significant gains in the training of special martial skills. Some had broken through from the mid-phase to the late phase of the heavenly saint realm, and there was even a martial artist from the minor spirit realm who had overcome the first heavenly tribulation within the void celestial gourd and successfully become a true god, a first tribulation true god. First tribulation true god. Only one more step beyond the late phase heavenly saint, but already a realm apart in level. A realm apart on the path of martial arts. At that moment, this newly minted first tribulation true god even puffed out his chest unconsciously, feeling outstanding like a crane standing among chickens in the crowd in his heart. Upon exiting the void celestial gourd, Yi Chen's gaze shifted towards a few familiar people. When he saw Palace Master Yuan Li, Yi Chen was taken aback. Palace Master Yuan Li. Yi Chen was startled to see that aside from one late phase heavenly saint of the minor spirit realm breaking through to the true god, Palace Master Yuan Li had also managed to break through to the true god realm. It's known that it's exceedingly difficult for someone in the late phase of the heavenly saint realm to reach the bottleneck to break through to the true god realm, and even more challenging to actually succeed in the breakthrough, as the vast majority perish in the heavenly tribulation during their first attempt. Therefore, the appearance of two martial artists succeeding in breaking through to the true god realm at the scene was naturally tremendously shocking. Yi Chen. Palace Master Yuan Li also saw Yi Chen's gaze and, with a slight smile, she flew over to him. Congratulations to Palace Master Yuan Li on your successful breakthrough to the true god realm, Yi Chen said to Palace Master Yuan Li with a smile. Palace Master Yuan Li replied with a gentle laugh and a shake of her head. Even though I've broken through to the true god realm, my strength is still not a match for yours. Yi Chen, I'm aware that during the previous grand martial competition, you did not fully exert your strength. While talking and laughing, Palace Master Yuan Li suddenly opened her beautiful eyes wide in surprise. Yi Chen, you've broken through to the mid-phase of the heavenly saint realm? Seeing Yi Chen nod, Palace Master Yuan Li couldn't believe it and covered her mouth in astonishment. She was simply too shocked. This shock, for her, was even 100-fold more surprising than her own breakthrough to the true god realm. You see, Palace Master Yuan Li herself had been in the late phase of the heavenly saint realm for countless years, always just half a step away from triggering the descent of the first heavenly tribulation to attack the true god realm. One could say that her success in the void celestial gourd in breaking through to the true god was partially due to good fortune and also related to her countless years of accumulation. But Yi Chen was different. Palace Master Yuan Li, more than anyone else, knew that it was just after the recent grand battle in the southern territory that Yi Chen had broken through to the early phase of the heavenly saint realm. To have just advanced to the early phase of the heavenly saint and now to have reached the mid-phase, despite the accelerated time flow rate of over 8 years within the void celestial gourd, was simply unimaginable. Many who were in the early phase of the heavenly saint realm and spent hundreds or thousands of years trying to push into the mid-phase could not achieve it. To expect to progress from the early to the mid-phase of the heavenly saint in just a little over 8 years was truly beyond belief. What Palace Master Yuan Li didn't know was that when Yi Chen had stepped into the heavenly saint realm in the rotating pill realm, he was already comprehending 5 major heavenly void laws simultaneously, reaching a profound understanding of the laws. And after cultivating the primordial chapter of the primordial star scripture and opening the stellar vortex space within his body, he had delved into an even deeper understanding of the laws pertaining to internal spatial levels, comprehension that was deeper than what was needed to advance from the early to the mid-phase of the heavenly saint realm. With this facilitation of different law comprehensions, his assault on the mid-phase of the heavenly saint realm was of course a success. In the midst of Palace Master Yuan Li's astonishment, as Yi Chen conveyed some matters to her through mental communication, several figures flew towards Yi Chen. These figures were all well known to Yi Chen, being Elder Minghua, the senior elder of the Heavenly Fire Holy Land from the Leaving Fire Continent, Heavenly Evolution Elder, and Mystery Heavenly Saint, who had also entered the Void Celestial Gourd for cultivation. Young friend Yi Chen. These people, after 8 years of practice, had made no significant gains and were somewhat disappointed in their hearts. Stay updated via novelbin.com. Now, as they flew in front of Yi-chan, they all asked him, "Young friend Yi-chan, are you planning to continue venturing into the undersea divine palace below?" These individuals were quite familiar with Yi-chan's strength. Especially Elder Minghua, who had personally witnessed Yi-chan's use of true god-level techniques, and Heavenly Evolution Elder, Mystery Heavenly Saint, and the Senior Elder of the Heavenly Fire Holy Land from the Leaving Fire Continent, knew of Yi-chan's power, which had allowed him to stand as an equal to the three-eyed skeleton, a three tribulations true god. All hailing from the 33 lands of the lower realm, they inevitably centered themselves around Yi-chan. Honored seniors, Yi-chan nodded with a smile toward these older generations. "I will indeed continue further down." At this moment, Elder Minghua let out a long sigh. "Young friend Yi-chan, it's all up to you to venture forth now. We, a few, haven't been able to break into the true God realm and dare not go any lower." The other late-stage heavenly saints also let out long sighs. They understood that their inability to continue downward could very likely lead to their death in this great cleansing catastrophe. Although they had lived for countless years and had long since become indifferent to life and death, the sense of powerlessness and the inability to fight on still left them deeply sighing, disappointed, and sorrowful. Just like Yi-chan and his peers, other familiar heavenly saints were also grouping together in twos and threes, discussing what to do next. Even many heavenly saints who hadn't entered the void celestial gourd but chose to cultivate in this land of wonders gathered around their familiar peers after seeing the 100 martial artists come out from the void celestial gourd, starting conversations. Although they had been cultivating inside the void celestial gourd for over 8 years, only 1 month had passed in the real time of the undersea divine palace, and they still had a long time to stay there. After everyone had shared their experiences for a while and was about to go their separate ways again, a group led by a first tribulation true god who had just succeeded in breaking through in the minor spirit realm headed in the direction where Yi-chan was. Seeing this group approaching suddenly, Yi-chan, Palace Master Yuan Li, Elder Minghua, and a few others stopped their conversation and turned to look at them. The first tribulation true god, who had just achieved a breakthrough, noticed Palace Master Yuan Li beside Yi-chan had also succeeded in ascending to the true god realm, and his eyes revealed a shocked expression. However, ultimately, his gaze settled on Yi-chan. "Fellow Taoist Yi-chan, my name is Jinan." The first tribulation true god greeted Yi-chan with a smile. "Previously, in a different challenge zone, I witnessed your combat and felt a desire to spar with you, young friend Yi-chan. It's a pity that at that time, I was still in the late heavenly saint stage and felt that I was no match for you. Now that I have successfully broken through to the true God realm and have fully mastered my 2 sets of divine arts, I wonder if you would exchange a few moves with me, Yi-chan. I want to see if you, who swept through the heavenly saints, possess the combat power of a first tribulation true god." This Jinan, who had just made a breakthrough to become a true god, actually came to challenge Yi-chan. When the other heavenly saints heard the newly minted true god Jinan issue a challenge to Yi-chan, who had astounded everyone in the previous grand competition, all eyes turned to Yi-chan. Many murmured among themselves, saying, "This is going to be a good show." That young man Yi-chan was astounding before. He could defeat any heavenly saint with ease. I suspected that he might have true god-level combat power. Alas, there was no one among the heavenly saints back then who could really push the young man to reveal a second move. Now, Jinan has broken through and has become true god Jinan. Just by breaking through the realm, a true god is infinitely stronger than a heavenly saint. Plus, he said he's made significant breakthroughs in his divine arts too. It's very possible that he has the strength to match this miraculous young man, Yi-chan. I wonder if Yi-chan will accept the challenge. Some heavenly saints also remarked, "Fighting a true god is too risky, and even if he wins, there won't be any more opportunities to enter the void celestial gourd. Yi-chan might not accept the challenge." In the midst of the buzzing conversations, Jinan looked at Yi-chan with a light smile and then turned his gaze to Palace Master Yunli beside him, saying, "My fellow Taoist has also broken through to the true God realm. Congratulations to you. However, you won't stop me from fighting with fellow Taoist Yi-chan, will you?" Palace Master Yuan Li hadn't expected True God Jinan to address her. She glanced at Jinan and then at Yi Chun, smiling. Of course, I won't stop you. However, Jinan, even though you have just succeeded in breaking through to the True God realm, I'm afraid you are still far from being a match for Yi Chun. Not only did Palace Master Yuan Li smile gently, but Elder Minghua, Heavenly Evolution Elder, Mystery Heavenly Saint, and others beside Yi Chun showed a kind of helpless amusement upon hearing that Jinan, who had just become a first tribulation true god, wanted to challenge Yi Chun. The expressions on their faces made it clear. They didn't hold much hope for this true god Jinan at all. The attitudes of those around Yi Chun left true god Jinan feeling quite unhappy inside. He had only just managed to break through to the true god realm, where his power had multiplied countless times. Of those present in this land of wonders, only Palace Master Yuan Li, who had also ascended to the true god realm, could be compared with him. All the others were still heavenly saints. Now, to be looked down upon by this group was irksome. Even though the young man Yi Chun had repeatedly defeated many challengers, frightening thousands of martial artists from challenging further, True God Jinan guessed that Yi Chen's real strength had just surpassed the heavenly saint realm. At most, it was at the level of a first tribulation true god. He simply couldn't believe that Yi Chun had the power to disdain him. Chapter 575. Seeing the dissatisfied look on True God Jinan's face, Yi Chun also smiled and shook his head, speaking, "Since Taoist Jinan wants to challenge me, then make your move. 10 breaths. Just like the bouts with the heavenly saints before, I will end this challenge within 10 breaths. 10 breaths. When the heavenly saints present heard Yi Chun utter these words again, many of them gasped in shock. These heavenly saints had been paying attention to Yi Chun's previous sparring matches. Some had even participated in the challenges against Yi Chun, so they certainly knew what he meant by 10 breaths. In the past, Yi Chun had defeated all challengers within 10 breaths, using just one move, and now, faced with True God Jinan, he still dared to make such a statement. Was he confident that he could defeat True God Jinan within one move? A true god, after all, is not the same as the previous heavenly saints. Yi Chun is really too arrogant. Many heavenly saints thought to themselves. They felt that, even if Yi Chun was formidable and could sweep through heavenly saints in one move, it was impossible for him to defeat a true god with just one move. If true gods were that easy to deal with, they wouldn't be true gods. The heavenly saints felt that Yi Chun was arrogant, and at this moment, True God Jinan even felt like spitting blood, contempt. He once again felt that he had been deeply scorned. The joy that True God Jinan had from breaking through to the true god realm had been entirely swept away. He was eager to fight against Yi Chun, to prove his strength and affirm that he was definitely not an opponent Yi Chun could defeat with one move. In an instant, the true god's power that True God Jinan had just successfully cultivated was released, frightening many heavenly saints, causing those like Elder Minghua beside Yi Chun to involuntarily retreat dozens of steps. True God Jinan is making his move. The aura of a true god is indeed terrifying. When Jinan released his aura, the heavenly saints in the area all moved quickly back, leaving space for Yi Chun and True God Jinan to fight. While the heavenly saints were getting out of the way, Jinan reached into the void, and instantly, the entire sky fell with countless thrilling flames, bombing towards Yi Chun. This shocking flame engulfed thousands of feet of space above Yi Chun's head, causing a large area of the void to be burned through, creating countless spatial rifts. Then, the sky full of flames turned into extremely terrifying stormy flames, bombarding Yi Chun furiously. Unable to bear the contempt, True God Jinan made his real move after releasing his aura. The true god's power, together with the divine flames that burnt the skies and the void, were all aimed at Yi Chun. This scene made the watching heavenly saints worried for Yi Chun. Even though they had seen his strength, they had forgotten Yi Chun's earlier domineering words. They had forgotten that Yi Chun said he would defeat True God Jinan within 10 breaths, with one move. They simply couldn't believe that under such a terrifying true god-level attack, with thousands of feet of void being burnt into cracks, Yi Chun could still defeat Jinan with one move. All they wanted to see was how Yi Chun, as a middle-stage heavenly saint, would withstand this move. As all the heavenly saints held their breath, Yi Chun, facing Jinan's flame, showed no sign of fear. Yi Chun smiled lightly, took a step, and instantly made his move. With a grasp of his left hand towards the void, the shooting flames that had burned thousands of feet of the void and had finally converged into the ultimate killing power were shockingly grabbed into his palm in an instant, as the shadow of his hand abruptly expanded. This fire-based divine art is still too weak. With a gentle squeeze of his hand's shadow, Yi Chun extinguished and shattered the flame storm of the divine art that even late-stage heavenly saints dreaded. At the same time, with an effortless pat of his right hand, true God Jinan, despite having successfully broken through to the true God realm, was sent flying backward by Yi Chun's slap, unable to withstand it. He was blasted hundreds of feet away and eventually crashed heavily onto the ground. In the end, like the heavenly saints who had challenged Yi Chun before, true God Jinan couldn't get up from the ground for a long time, the immense pain causing him to cry out involuntarily. This scene made all the heavenly saints on the field widen their eyes and open their mouths in disbelief. Palace Master Yuanli, Elder Minghua, the great elder of the Heavenly Fire Holy Land from Leaving Fire Continent, Elder Tianyan, Mystery Heavenly Saint, and others all revealed deep admiration in their eyes, as if to say, "Indeed, it is as expected." Everyone finally understood. Yi Chun was not being arrogant before. He clearly had great strength, great domineering presence. Everyone finally understood. Even if someone achieved the true God realm in 8 years, they still wouldn't be a match for Yi Chun. In this strange land, Yi Chun's power still easily swept through everyone. Yi Chun was still unstoppable. Yi Chun. Fellow Taoist Yi Chun. After Yi Chun once again demonstrated his power, in the end, those gathered around Yi Chun were not only Palace Master Yuanli and the rest, but the majority of the heavenly saints had surrounded him as well. Even when Yi Chun and Palace Master Yuanli were ready to venture further down, many of the heavenly saints respectfully saw them off. The shadow of the great cleansing catastrophe loomed over everyone's hearts. These people had a premonition that this young man, who was only at the mid-stage of the heavenly saint realm but had a strength far surpassing a one-tribulation true God, if so incredible within the first 11 layers, would likely display even more unimaginable feats in the following 22 layers. Even if this young man did not possess the colossal power of a nine-tribulation true God, the mere disparity between his combat strength and realm made everyone aware that this young man's potential absolutely surpassed the several nine-tribulation true gods of the minor spirit realm. In the mysterious and unpredictable undersea divine palace, strength is important, but potential, opportunity, and even destiny and fortune are even more crucial. Many people even had a premonition that the eye of the divine sea, which might allow them to escape with their lives, could possibly be obtained by this young man in the end. Thinking of this, the numerous heavenly saints, who had originally been in despair, now harbored a sliver of hope. Elder Yuanli, be careful in the next few layers, Yi Chun said to Palace Master Yuanli, as they approached the entrance to the 12th layer of the undersea divine palace. This time, Elder Minghua, the great elder of the Heavenly Fire Holy Land, Elder Tianyan, and others had not chosen to continue their adventure into the undersea divine palace. Among those Yi Chun knew in the 11th layer of Strange Land, only he and Palace Master Yuanli had chosen to continue venturing downward. God King He Mei had said that entering the 12th layer would make the journey through the undersea divine palace dangerous and extremely difficult. At this moment of separation, possibly being transported to different folded spaces in the next layer, Yi Chun naturally worried for Palace Master Yuanli and couldn't help but remind her to be careful. Palace Master Yuanli smiled and nodded. I know. I've just entered the true God realm, and it will definitely be difficult to venture further, so I will be careful. Yi Chun, you must also be careful. If it truly becomes impassable, don't force your way through. Palace Master Yuanli also advised Yi Chun in return. Palace Master Yuanli was aware of Yi Chun's intentions and knew that he was reluctant to give up on finding the eye of the divine sea, which could only potentially appear in the last 3 layers of the undersea divine palace. The last 3 layers, even though Palace Master Yuanli knew of Yi Chun's strength, also realized that it wouldn't be easy for Yi Chun to break through and there was a great risk of falling. I understand. Yi Chen nodded. As he nodded, Yi Chen's gaze skimmed the passageway of the undersea divine palace, looking towards the deeper and more unexplored areas below. Perhaps many true gods are already further below by now, he mused. True Phoenix, Mulan True God, the ancient emperor of the Yen clan, and also the elder of the Flying Spirit clan, the elder of the Vermilion Bird clan. I wonder if Zhang Yao has gone further below. No matter what, I will do my utmost to continue venturing downward. I must obtain the Eye of Destiny, search for Zhang Yao, and I'll even try to find the Eye of the Divine Sea. Experience exclusive tales on Novelbin. Calm. Boom. Boom. After Yi Chen took a deep breath, he and Palace Master Yuan Li stepped into the passageway from the 11th layer to the 12th layer of the undersea divine palace. In a flash of light, Yi Chen fully entered the 12th layer of the undersea divine palace. Chapter 576 Sky-Piercing Clams. Is this the 12th level of the undersea divine palace? When the dizziness from the teleportation passed, Yi Chen found himself in an immensely large grand hall. It looks similar to the first level of the undersea divine palace. Yi Chen surveyed the massive grand hall and spoke aloud. The grand hall on the 12th level of the undersea divine palace, like the one on the first level, was incredibly vast, with the ceiling carved with numerous exotic monsters, humans, spirit insects, dark demonic creatures, and peculiar beings. The only difference was that, originally, in the grand hall on the first level of the undersea divine palace, Yi Chen had descended with hundreds of thousands of martial artists. But at this moment, in this 12th level, Yi Chen found only himself in the enormous grand hall. Palace Master Yuan Li, who had teleported with him, was nowhere to be seen. Clearly, he had been sent to some other folded space. I wonder what kind of lethal entities this level contains? Yi Chen looked around the 12th level grand hall and saw it completely empty, not even sensing a trace of killing intent, as if there were no dangers at all. A somewhat strange feeling. No matter. Finding the passage is the priority. With a thought, the heaven-reaching divine artifact flying boat flew out from Yi Chen's body, enlarging instantly. Yi Chen flew into the flying boat and maneuvered it around the grand hall, searching for the passage that led to the 13th level of the undersea divine palace. After flying about for quite some time, Yi Chen did not spot a shadow of any lethal entity. And just when Yi Chen finally sensed the passage to the lower level in the northeastern corner of the grand hall, he suddenly heard a series of thuds coming from outside the Void Heaven flying boat. As Yi Chen looked outside the Void Heaven flying boat, he saw directly that more than 100 true god-level toad-shaped monsters were all lying on top of his flying boat. And Yi Chen also noticed that even more toad-shaped monsters were flying out from the ceiling of the 12th level grand hall, heading straight for his flying boat. The thuds were precisely the sound of these true god-level toad monsters, hitting his heaven-reaching divine artifact flying boat. In just a moment, more than 300 true god-level toad monsters were perched on Yi Chen's flying boat. These toad monsters were all more than half a meter long, with most being at the first tribulation true god level, though there were also several at the two tribulations true god level. Even if their true god realm wasn't high, the sheer number that appeared was quite terrifying. Moreover, they all appeared near the boundary of the passage to the lower level, making it impossible to avoid them if one wished to enter the passage. Indeed, as God King Heimei had said, upon entering the 12th level, the difficulty of advancing greatly increased, with most in the heavenly saint realm likely meeting their demise. It was truly so. Think about it. If an ordinary warrior in the heavenly saint realm suddenly encountered an attack by hundreds of true god-level toad monsters, death was likely the only path left. However, at that moment, with the intervention of the heaven-reaching divine artifact flying boat, these more than 300 true god-level toad monsters could do nothing to Yi Chen. Even as Yi Chen maneuvered the heaven-reaching divine artifact flying boat with a sudden roll and shake, he directly flung all the more than 300 true god-level toad monsters off, causing them to crash onto the hall's ceiling and the ground with a thunderous noise. Afterwards, Yi Chen directly operated the flying boat, flying swiftly towards the passage into the 13th level of the undersea divine palace. Yi Chun didn't want to tangle with these true god-level toad monsters. It was more important for him to make his way to the 15th level of the Undersea Divine Palace as soon as possible. After all, in the 15th level of the Undersea Divine Palace, there were 8 incredibly precious eyes of creation. Having spent quite some time cultivating in the 11th level, Yi Chun had been delayed, and many true gods had already advanced ahead of him. Yi Chun didn't want to waste any more time. But the outcome of the situation was not as simple as Yi Chun had thought. In the first 11 levels, upon discovering a teleportation passage, one could directly enter it. But at that moment, as Yi Chun was about to fly into the teleportation passage, he found that the entire passage in the 12th level of the Undersea Divine Palace was generating an immense repulsive force, slamming his heaven-reaching divine artifact flying boat backwards. This teleportation passage actually barred Yi Chun's entry. What's going on? Just as Yi Chun stabilized the heaven-reaching divine artifact flying boat and was puzzled to the extreme, outside the flying boat, those true god-level toad creatures that Yi Chun had bumped into and sent flying started laughing with a gaga-gaga sound. At the same time, they began to speak human language. "Ha-ha, intruder. You think you can pass through the 12th layer of the Undersea Divine Palace that easily? Relying solely on the flying boat to fly directly into the passage is absolutely impossible. Unless you kill 100 of our true god, sky-piercing clams to accumulate enough points to break through this layer, only then will the passage open for you to enter." The words of these true god-level toad creatures left Yi Chun stunned. Can't fly in directly? Need to kill 100 true god-level creatures to pass? These true god-level toad creatures are called sky-piercing clams? With a thought, Yi Chun flew directly out of the heaven-reaching divine artifact flying boat and came to its exterior. At the same time, he put away the flying boat and looked at the densely packed 300 or more sky-piercing clams before him. Seeing Yi Chun fly out of the flying boat, these 300 or more true god-level, sky-piercing clams, like humans, showed an expression of great joy. "Kill this intruder. We are in charge of guarding this checkpoint. We can't let any weakling leave." Boom! 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 These true god-level, sky-piercing clams all crazily flew toward Yi Chun. Yi Chun looked calmly at the more than 300 true god creatures charging towards him. The strongest of these creatures was of the 2 tribulations true god level. Even without the assistance of the heaven-reaching divine artifact flying boat, Yi Chun was not the least bit afraid. Read latest stories on novel.com. As the 300 or more sky-piercing clams frenziedly pounced towards him, Yi Chun waved his sleeves, unleashing a force even more mighty than the previous collision force of the flying boat, which directly hit these sky-piercing clams. Many of the sky-piercing clams were instantly hit and flew thousands of feet away. Some were directly killed upon impact, and the most formidable few 2 tribulations true god-level sky-piercing clams, while being knocked back, were grabbed by Yi Chun's large hand, directly caught in the void, and pulled back in front of him. Yi Chun's strike, with power terrifying to the extreme, caused numerous sky-piercing clams to descend into chaos. These true god-level sky-piercing clams had not anticipated that such a formidable person would come to the 12th layer of the Undersea Divine Palace this time. What they didn't know was that Yi Chun's move had not even used 1/10 of his strength. Otherwise, it wouldn't just be many sky-piercing clams being knocked away. Even if these sky-piercing clams were of the 1st tribulation or 2 tribulations true god level, Yi Chun could have killed them all with a single move. The reason Yi Chun was still holding back was that he had many questions to ask these sky-piercing clams. Looking at the 5-2 tribulations true god level sky-piercing clams he had caught in his hand, Yi Chun asked, "I ask you, does everyone who enters the 12th layer of the Undersea Divine Palace get attacked by you?" Yi Chun found it odd. Even though the 12th layer of the Undersea Divine Palace was bound to be extremely dangerous, there were too many sky-piercing clams ambushing him at the passage. He had enough combat power, so it was not an issue for him. If other martial artists who broke into the 12th layer of the Undersea Divine Palace encountered so many sky-piercing clams, then it's likely that many 1st tribulation and 2 tribulations true gods would directly perish. Yi Chun was extremely concerned whether Palace Master Yuan Li who had entered the 12th layer of the undersea divine palace at the same time as him and was now in another folded space, would encounter such dangerous situations as well. If Palace Master Yuan Li really faced such crises, being a first tribulation true god, she could likely encounter great trouble. Chapter 577 – The Real Crisis. Upon hearing Yi Chen's inquiry, the 5-2 tribulation's true gods level sky-piercing clams that Yi Chen had grasped in the void all trembled over their entire bodies. In a flurry, they answered, "We report to you, sir, that every person who enters the 12th floor of the undersea divine palace will encounter an attack, but the attacks vary." "They vary." Yi Chen frowned and looked at the sky-piercing clams. "How do they differ?" A 2 tribulation's true god sky-piercing clam responded, "Sir, within the 12th floor of the undersea divine palace, aside from our sky-piercing clam clan, there is the even more powerful skyscraper wall gecko clan. The strongest among our sky-piercing clam clan are the 3 tribulations true gods, whereas the skyscraper wall gecko clan even has true gods of 5 tribulations. Our 2 clans are responsible for guarding the 12th floor of this undersea divine palace. Every martial artist who intrudes into the 12th floor of the undersea divine palace will encounter a random number of sky-piercing clams or skyscraper wall geckos besieging them. The luckiest martial artists might only face an attack by 1 or 2 1 tribulation true god level sky-piercing clams. The unlucky ones, however, might encounter an assault by hundreds of skyscraper wall geckos of 5 tribulations true god level. Many 6 tribulations true gods would fall under such an assault. Yi Chen nodded. So, the 12th floor of this undersea divine palace actually randomly allocates life forms as killing opponents. Does this mean that my test isn't too dangerous? Yi Chen asked as he looked at these true god-level clam demon creatures. Although he faced more than 300 true god-level clam demon creatures, the strongest was only of the 2 tribulations true god level, and he did not encounter the more powerful skyscraper wall gecko clan. Clearly, his crisis was relatively manageable. "Sir, your strength is extraordinarily formidable. I believe that even the most dangerous scenario in the 12th floor of this undersea divine palace, with hundreds of skyscraper wall geckos at the true god level of 5 tribulations descending, you would be able to break through. A few 2 tribulations true god, sky-piercing clams, said in a continuous stream after hearing Yi Chen's words. Yi Chen didn't take the compliments of these sky-piercing clams to heart. He then asked, "Since it is a random allocation of opponents, what force compels you to attack us martial artists? Does the strength or realm of a martial artist influence this random allocation? Moreover, if you are always being killed, won't your race be exterminated?" Upon hearing Yi Chen's questions, a few 2 tribulations true god-level, sky-piercing clams spoke. "Sir, the strength of a martial artist does not affect the random allocation. Even a first tribulation true god, if unlucky, may encounter an attack by hundreds of 5 tribulations true god-level skyscraper wall geckos. If lucky, even a 3 tribulations true god might only face 1 or 2 1 tribulation true god-level sky-piercing clams. This random allocation begins as soon as you enter the undersea divine palace. A mysterious power from the ceiling of this palace will then transport us into the 12th floor battleground to fight against you. As for whether we'll be made extinct, sir, this undersea divine palace is incredibly peculiar. Both our races exiled within it won't be exterminated. Even if many of our clansmen die, they can still revive after the next great purge calamity arrives." Regarding what the sky-piercing clams said about the assignment of opponents being completely random and unrelated to power or realm, Yi Chen could only nod. He could only hope that Palace Master Yuan Li would not be so unlucky as to encounter an attack by skyscraper wall geckos of the 5 tribulations true god level. If Palace Master Yuan Li were lucky and only encountered some sky-piercing clams of the first tribulation true god level, he should be able to smoothly get through the 12th floor. And about what these sky-piercing clams said, that even if they died, they could still be revived at the arrival of the next great purge calamity. Shook Yi Chen somewhat. Revival? That was an immensely mysterious power, and it was a great purge calamity that came once every tens of thousands of years. After so long, This power could revive the dead, sky-piercing clams. The mysteriousness and might of this undersea divine palace were truly inconceivable. Even the undying divine body that Yi-Chen practiced, which possessed some of the majesty of revival, was only for his individual self, and it had to be cultivated to perfection to work. Moreover, it couldn't bring anyone else back to life. Amidst his astonishment, Yi-Chen took a deep breath and then looked at the sky-piercing clams again. Since you can revive after death, why do you fear me so much? Even if I kill you, you can still revive in the future. What's there to fear? Yi-Chen was somewhat puzzled by the fear the sky-piercing clams showed towards him. The 5-2 Tribulation's true god-level sky-piercing clams then hurriedly spoke up. Sir, we admire your strength, and of course we must respect you. Seeing Yi-Chen frown, the 5-2 Tribulation's true god-level sky-piercing clams hastened to tell the truth. To speak truly to you, sir, the number of sky-piercing clams or skyscraper wall geckos that appear each time is more than what the undersea divine palace itself requires for a martial artist to pass the trial. Like this time, although there are more than 300 sky-piercing clams that have been brought forth to besiege you, sir, you only need to kill 100 sky-piercing clams to pass this level. Those sky-piercing clams that are killed, even if they revive later, will be severely punished by the undersea divine palace. If we do not revive, even if we fail to complete the task and don't kill the intruding martial artists, there will only be a small punishment which doesn't affect our own cultivation. Of course, if we succeed in killing the intruding martial artists, we would receive a reward, and if the rewards are sufficient, we might even be able to escape our exile. Hearing the words of these sky-piercing clams, Yi-Chen finally understood why they had been so aggressively attacking him previously. It turned out that killing intruders like him came with rewards for these sky-piercing clams. Even if they truly encountered an opponent they couldn't kill, these sky-piercing clams were still bent on preserving their own lives, not wishing to be punished severely as sacrifices. No wonder these sky-piercing clams kept appeasing him. It was because they feared being killed by him and feared the severe punishment of the undersea divine palace. To get through this 12th floor, I merely need to kill 100 sky-piercing clams, and then I can spare the lives of over 200 sky-piercing clams. However, this undersea divine palace can not only punish these exiles but also revive them. Obviously, the undersea divine palace possesses some inexplicable power that is in control. Yi-Chen pondered in his heart. After thinking for a while, Yi-Chen finally turned to the sky-piercing clams and said, I can spare you, but I have a few more questions. Answer them truthfully. Upon hearing Yi-Chen's promise to spare them, the 2 Tribulation's true god-level sky-piercing clams were overjoyed. They knew they were no match for the powerful intruding martial artist. Managing to keep their lives was hard enough, and of course they were thrilled. Ask any questions you like, sir. We will answer truthfully everything we know, replied the 5-2 Tribulation's true god-level sky-piercing clams, eagerly competing to speak first. Yi-Chen looked at the 5 sky-piercing clams and asked, Besides fighting with me, have you encountered any other martial artists? All 5 sky-piercing clams shook their heads in unison. No, sir. Each batch of sky-piercing clams or skyscraper wall geckos faces different martial artists in combat. We have no idea about the fights of others. Yi-Chen felt disappointed with this answer. He had hoped to gather information about Zhang Yao, True Phoenix, and Mulan True God from these sky-piercing clams. But now it seemed they knew nothing. Continue reading stories on Novelbin.com. Then let me ask you, do you know what kind of lethal creatures I will encounter if I enter the lower levels? Yi-Chen was confident about getting through the 12th layer, but he was unsure about the levels below it. It was necessary to inquire with these sky-piercing clams. The lower layers? The sky-piercing clams took a glance at one another upon hearing Yi-Chen's inquiry. They pondered for a while, and as if they recalled something, they quickly said, We all have lived through the previous Great Purge catastrophe. In that catastrophe, those who came back from the lower levels had talked about how they had also encountered randomly assigned opponents. The martial artist who had returned to the 12th layer last time did so after facing an onslaught of countless ice demon creatures on the 13th layer, and had retreated after being overwhelmed in battle. For the deeper levels of the Undersea Divine Palace we do not know, but upon entering the 13th layer, sir, you might also face a random onslaught of lethal creatures. The lethal creatures in the 13th layer are certainly more terrifying than those in the 12th. We hope that sir will be fortunate enough not to face the more powerful lethal creatures through random assignment. Yichun nodded his head. After asking everything he wanted to know, Yichun finally had some understanding of the Undersea Divine Palace's 12th layer and the 13th layer he was about to enter. It seemed that both these layers randomly assigned a certain number of lethal creatures to fight the martial artists. After some thought, Yichun said to the few two tribulations true god sky-piercing clams, I can spare you. However, I must kill 100 sky-piercing clams. Who do you think should be killed, and who should be revived next time, to be fair? A tea time later, Yichun finally entered the teleportation corridor from the Undersea Divine Palace's 12th layer to the 13th layer smoothly. Remembering how the 5-2 tribulations true god-level sky-piercing clams were scared to suggest which of the first tribulation true god-level sky-piercing clams should be killed, the first tribulation true god sky-piercing clams were jumping around frantically in fear. But because they were bound by the Undersea Divine Palace and could not escape in the end, 100 sky-piercing clams were still killed by him. Yichun did not feel the excitement of passing the 11th layer of the Undersea Divine Palace, but rather some helplessness. He did not want to kill those sky-piercing clams, but there was no choice, to survive, to journey further into the depths of the Undersea Divine Palace in search of the Eye of Creation. He had to do it. Often, the path of the martial artist is replete with helplessness. Those sky-piercing clams, bound by the Undersea Divine Palace, sometimes could not avoid the danger of death. Wasn't Yichun himself, like countless other martial artists who entered the Undersea Divine Palace, the same? Numerous martial artists have died at the hands of lethal creatures exiled within the Undersea Divine Palace, or they will die in the future during the Great Purge calamity of the Divine Palace. Martial artists and exiled lethal creatures are both involuntary. They are all controlled by the mysterious power of the Undersea Divine Palace. Only by becoming stronger can one escape the crises of the Undersea Divine Palace. Only then one can avoid dying an involuntary death like those first tribulation true god sky-piercing clams. As Yichun was transitioning from the 12th to the 13th layer, such thoughts flashed through his mind. When he finally arrived at the 13th layer of the Undersea Divine Palace, Yichun put all distractions aside. With countless dangers ahead, this was not the time to let his guard down. Just as Yichun entered the 13th layer of the Undersea Divine Palace, he heard surges of voices coming towards him. Intruder, to pass our Undersea Divine Palace's 13th layer, you must kill 1,000 true gods among us. When Yichun looked up to the sky, he was startled to see, in the vast expanse of the 13th layer of the Undersea Divine Palace, over 5,000 flame true god creatures densely packed. The weakest of these true god creatures were at the 3 tribulations true god level, and the most powerful were even at the 6 tribulations true god level. Chapter 578 A Swift Kill. On the 12th floor of the Undersea Divine Palace, the murderous lifeforms were encountered only at the final passage. Now, upon entering the 13th floor, murderous lifeforms were immediately met. On the 12th floor of the Undersea Divine Palace, the encountered creatures were the relatively weak, sky-piercing clams. But on the 13th floor, 5,000 formidable flame-shaped true god demons were faced right away. Moreover, as Yichun's divine sense swept through, it became clear that there were a total of 5,863 flame-shaped true god demons densely packed within the vast expanse of the 13th floor. Each of these flame-shaped true god demons were about the size of an adult human, with appearances Yichun had never seen before on demons, exuding a ferocity that made one's mind and spirit tremble. Within these flame-shaped demons, there were 2,308 at the level of 3 tribulations true gods, 2,263 at the level of 4 tribulations true gods, and even 1,000 at the level of 5 tribulations true gods. And the most powerful among them, the 6 tribulations true god level demons, numbered a staggering 292. The number of these true god demons was horrifyingly vast and their strength was terrifying. It was feared that if they were to move out, they could completely flatten the 33 continents of the lower realm without any problem. Previously on the 12th floor, those sky-piercing clams had mentioned that ice demons would appear on the 13th floor, yet they were nowhere to be seen now. Yi-chun felt that perhaps those ice demons were akin to the weaker sky-piercing clams on the 12th floor, while these flame demons were equivalent to the powerful, murderous skyscraper wall geckos. It was likely that Yi-chun was simply unlucky to encounter the most formidable group of opponents randomly assigned on the 13th floor of the Undersea Divine Palace. As Yi-chun pondered, one of the 6 tribulations' true god-level demons from the vast number of flame demons on the 13th floor spoke again. Intruder, consider yourself extremely unlucky. In this 13th floor, you've encountered us, the Flame Scorcher clan, and not the weaker Ice Liao clan. Additionally, we must inform you, Intruder, that our group is the one with the highest number of true god opponents, as well as the most powerful combat strength, on the 13th floor of the Undersea Divine Palace. Your misfortune is great for having met us. If you cannot kill at least 1,000 true gods among us, you will never reach the lower floors of the Undersea Divine Palace. Intruder, brace yourself for our all-encompassing slaughter. Boom! 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 After the 6 tribulations' true god of the Flame Scorcher clan finished speaking to Yi-chun, it let out a piercing howl, and the other 5,000 Flame Scorcher clan demons began howling as well. The sky full of howls assaulted the eardrums and pierced the divine soul. Finally, all the true god demons of the Flame Scorcher clan took to the skies, rushing towards Yi-chun in a frenzy to slaughter him. The staggering number of 5,863 flame demons, with as many as 1,292 of them being at the level of 5 and 6 tribulations' true gods. This sheer number of demons was astonishing to the extreme. Even a 7 tribulations true god might not be able to withstand the onslaught of these flame demons. A weaker true god witnessing this scene might simply die of fright. At this moment, seeing the sky full of demons rushing to attack, Yi-chun's expression was extremely serious. If it wasn't for the fact that he had spent more than 8 years training in the Void Celestial Gourd on the 11th floor, drastically increasing his strength, he definitely would not have been able to pass through such a challenge on the 13th floor. Even though he had spent more than 8 years training in the Void Celestial Gourd, facing such a number and level of demons now, he had to be extremely cautious. The slightest carelessness could possibly lead to his demise. After all, there were more than 5,800 demons, all above the level of 3 tribulations true gods. Any oversight could definitely lead to a real threat of death. I've actually encountered the most powerful group of murderous creatures on the 13th floor? How unlucky can I get? I need to kill 1,000 to get past the 13th floor? In that case, hiding in the heaven-reaching divine artifact flying boat won't work. If I didn't kill even one head just like on the 12th floor, I would be blocked by the transmission hall. It looks like a real battle is inevitable now. Countless thoughts flashed through Yi-chun's mind in an instant. As the 5,863 flame demons rapidly approached him, Yi-chun's thoughts flickered and with a swoosh, he drew the purple blood divine sword. After more than 8 years of arduous cultivation, Yi-chun had not yet truly tested his combat power. Now it was time to test that power. Continue reading at Novelbin. Calm. If a battle could not be avoided, then he would fight with a vengeance. Clang. The vast stellar power cultivated by Yi-chun from the primordial chapter of the primordial star scripture surged wildly and was suddenly channeled into the purple blood divine sword, causing the sword in Yi-chun's hand to suddenly emit an unmatched divine radiance of a purple blood hue. With a mighty slash of this purple blood divine light, Yi-chun created 1,000 zhonglong terrifying sword energy that instantly sliced through dozens of flame demons. And at that moment, even more flame demons had completely pounced towards Yi-chun. Puffed, 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 puffed. The flames on these flame demons' bodies even began to burn away the layers of protective true chi around Yi-chun, while countless flame demons rammed towards him with fierce abandon. The combined impact of over 5,000 true god-level demons was terrifying. This collision sent Yi-chun flying thousands of meters away. If Yi Chun had not been wearing heaven-reaching divine artifact-level protective armor obtained from the legacy of the Icebound Divine King, and had not cultivated the extremely defensive Icebound Divine Body and Undying Divine Body cultivation skills, this terrible collision from the thousands of true god-level flame demons would have surely killed him on the spot. To withstand the collision from so many of our clan members? Seeing Yi Chun sent flying thousands of meters without coughing up a single drop of blood, the Flame Scorcher clan's true god demons in the sky were also somewhat shocked. They had thought that their attack would certainly kill this extremely young intruder. Unexpectedly, they were stopped, and dozens of their clansmen had died in the process. The Flame Scorcher clan's true god demons realized in an instant that Yi Chun wasn't as simple as he seemed on the surface. After exchanging glances, the leading 6 tribulations true gods howled furiously and led over 5,000 true god demons in a sprawling attack towards Yi Chun once more. This time, the Flame Scorcher clan's true god demons transformed into beings with sharp, unparalleled teeth, all intending to tear Yi Chun apart with their bites. Seeing the Flame Scorcher clan's true god demons launching another attack, would Yi Chun merely stand there and be attacked? He erupted from the ground where he had been sent crashing and flew upward, as the 465 stellar vortex spaces developed within him over more than 8 years stirred violently. Unrivaled stellar power swept out from within Yi Chun, creating over 8,000 meters of dazzling stellar divine light fires around his body. At the same time, Yi Chun, holding the purple blood divine sword, vibrated the tip of the sword sharply, and the golden light divine slash, the most lethal of the 5 great divine arts of the gold element, was unleashed with a roar. The golden light divine slash instantly cut through more than 100 of the over 5,000 demons rushing towards Yi Chun in mid-attack. As an even greater number of demons charged from all directions, the 292 leading 6 tribulations true god-level Flame Scorcher clan demons also caused their flames to surge, unleashing peerless divine arts towards Yi Chun. Yi Chun's hand flashed again, and the Thunder Gourd, a middle-grade attack-type divine artifact obtained in the minor pole sky, flew out at once. The Thunder Gourd instantly swelled to 1,000 zhong in size, and from its mouth countless streams of cyan-white breath were violently spewed out, crazily absorbing the Flame Scorcher clan's true god demons that filled the skies. Chapter 579 Its Weight. The Thunder Gourd is a large-area damage-type divine artifact. At this moment, facing the siege of over 5,000 terrifying true god demon creatures from the Flame Scorcher clan, Yi Chun finally brought out this treasure, ready to take in a large batch of the Flame Scorcher clan true god demon creatures, to be directly killed by the Thunder Gourd. Spurt, 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 spurt. With this intake, the dozens of Flame Scorcher clan true god demon creatures closest to the Thunder Gourd were instantly drawn into the gourd, where those at the level of 3 and 4 tribulations true gods were killed upon entry. Even the more powerful 5 tribulations true gods, though not killed immediately, were completely trapped within the Thunder Gourd. Death was clearly imminent. The countless screams coming from within the Thunder Gourd caused the Flame Scorcher clan, true god demon creatures, further away from the Thunder Gourd, to change their expressions dramatically. When they felt the great suction power of the Thunder Gourd pulling at them too, many of the demon creatures, even unconsciously dragged towards the Thunder Gourd, started to scream in terror. This screeching was no longer the howling of slaughter from before, but one of dread. Clearly, these creatures knew that if they were pulled into the terrible gourd treasure wielded by the young man in front of them, they would most likely meet death. This young man is too strong. We must use our true methods now. Seeing that in just a few moments of exchange, over 200 of their kin had died, those Flame Scorcher clan true god demon creatures at the 6 tribulations true god level, who could still resist the suction power of the Thunder Gourd, after screeching, actually spit out streams of molten lava from their mouths. The sky filled with molten lava furiously wrapped around the Thunder Gourd. Even though Yi Chun maneuvered the Thunder Gourd to dodge this vast enclosure of molten lava, the lava's interference completely halted the gourd's ability to take in and kill the Flame Scorcher clan true god demon creatures. At the same time, the leading 292 6 tribulations true god level Flame Scorcher clan demon creatures were all brandishing weapons that glowed with divine light, appearing in each of their hands as fiery, shining, halberd-like weapons. Not only them, but all the remaining Flame Scorcher clan, true god demon creatures, also suddenly had halberd-shaped weapons appear in their hands. These halberd-shaped weapons of the Flame Scorcher clan, true god demon creatures, violently collided with one another, and the over 2,000 clashing sounds gathered in the air, forming a tremendously powerful shock wave that charged directly at Yi Chen's divine soul. This was clearly a divine soul attack method, and it was a combined force attack martial skill. Seeing the Thunder Gourd's killing force blocked, Yi Chen was not surprised in the least. Yi Chen knew that the creatures guarding the 13th floor of the Undersea Divine Palace could not be directly dealt with by the mid-grade divine artifact, Thunder Gourd. He had stepped slightly the instant the Thunder Gourd was blocked, shifting to the heights of void heaven. Now, facing the tremendously powerful combined divine soul damage shock wave attack from the Flame Scorcher clan, true god demon creatures. A destruction eye skill, divine light, suddenly appeared from Yi Chen's brow. Boom! The destruction character divine light from the destruction eye skill directly faced and blasted the shockwave. Explore hidden tales at Novel Bin. Calm. Thud. 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 The 1,000 zhong long massive shockwave was destroyed by over 300 zhong by the destruction divine light emitted from Yi Chen's brow. But still, over 700 zhong of the shockwave had already penetrated Yi Chen's divine soul. The divine soul is the weakest sign of life for a martial artist. Facing the combined divine soul attack methods of these thousands of demon creatures, many Seven Tribulations true gods would not be able to withstand it. After all, even many Seven Tribulations true gods have limited divine soul defensive abilities. But even as over 700 zhong of the shock wave pierced into Yi Chen's divine soul, Yi Chen was not killed. In that instant, the defensive battle armor Yi Chen was wearing, obtained from the Icebound Temple's main hall, a mid-grade heaven-reaching divine artifact-level defense, immediately released an infinite defensive power, directly protecting Yi Chen's divine soul and eradicating the shock wave that had intruded into it. A heaven-reaching divine artifact-level defensive battle armor, of course, has not only physical body and true chi defense but also divine soul defense. While defended by the heaven-reaching divine artifact-level defensive battle armor, Yi Chen's divine soul was also frantically utilizing this defensive power. Yi Chen's divine soul is by no means an ordinary heavenly saint divine soul. His cultivation in the primordial star scripture had already greatly strengthened his divine soul far beyond those of his peers, and in the minor pole skies cultivation grounds, Yi Chen had even specifically cultivated his divine soul. His divine soul, something that these strongest Six Tribulations true god-level creatures from the Flame Scorcher clan certainly couldn't kill. Spurt, 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 spurt. As the over 700 zhong-long shock wave entered Yi Chen's divine soul, his divine soul, along with the defensive power of the heaven-reaching divine artifact armor, had already annihilated the terrifying shock wave. Afterward, with a clear and sharp gaze, Yi Chen looked towards the densely packed Flame Scorcher clan demon creatures in the heavens and earth. His hand wielding the purple blood divine sword swung, unleashing a forbidden sword move that he had never displayed before. It burst forth. Seeing that Yi Chen was not killed when the over 700 zhong-long divine soul shock wave entered his divine soul, and that he was attacking again, the dense multitudes of over 5,000 Flame Scorcher clan true god demon creatures on the Great Land were completely stunned. Chapter 580. They couldn't imagine that the young man before them would be so powerful. His physical body could withstand their collisions. His true chi could equally resist their tearing bites, and his divine soul could even fend off their combined soul attacks. This young man was simply essence, chi, and spirit, the three signs of life, at a level of strength they had never seen before. At this moment, seeing Yi Chen make his move again, the shocked true god demon creatures of the Flame Scorcher clan screamed in fear, for they found that the entire world around them, for tens of thousands of zhong in radius, was suddenly covered by terrifying purple rays. These purple rays even completely bound them, rendering them utterly immobilized. Even true gods of the Six Tribulations couldn't move an inch. This situation left them completely petrified. Then, something even more incredible happened. The purple rays that bound the radius of tens of thousands of zhong suddenly twisted, turning into a net of light, with each thread starting to flow and generating an unfathomably powerful net-killing force. All the true god-demon creatures of the Flame Scorcher clan that touched these purple rays died in an instant. Over 2,000 true god creatures of the Flame Scorcher clan at the level of the three tribulations, all dead. Over 2,000 true god creatures of the Flame Scorcher clan at the level of the four tribulations, all dead. Even true god creatures of the Flame Scorcher clan at the level of the 5 and 6 tribulations, all dead. In the very moment of death, countless true god-demon creatures of the Flame Scorcher clan still screeched in disbelief. How is this possible? What kind of move is this? Boom! Stay updated through novelbin.com. In the midst of these incredible screams, the true god-demon creatures of the Flame Scorcher clan were cut into segments by the giant net formed of purple rays, and eventually, they all fell from the void and turned into nothingness. The move that killed all the true god-demon creatures of the Flame Scorcher clan and caused them to howl in terror was none other than Yi Chen's first move of the forbidden sword technique of the Purple Blood Divine Sword, Purple Light. The three major forbidden sword moves of the Purple Blood Divine Sword could make the superior grade attack Divine Sword unleash the killing force of a heaven-reaching divine artifact. At this point, even if Yi Chen hadn't fully comprehended all three major forbidden sword moves, having only grasped the first two, Purple Light and Extreme Lightning, the first move Purple Light alone, by triggering 30% of the hidden prohibitions of the superior divine sword Purple Blood Divine Sword, was already enough to kill these most powerful true god creatures of the Flame Scorcher clan at the level of the 6 tribulations. Finally, I've killed all these demons. Seeing that all the true god-demon creatures of the Flame Scorcher clan in the sky had turned into nothingness, Yi Chen also descended from the void. Using the first move of the forbidden sword technique, Purple Light, from the Purple Blood Divine Sword, had almost completely drained the stellar power within his body, and at this point, he was extremely weak. Yi Chen collected the Thunder Gourd and looked inside, finding that all the previously unslain true god creatures of the Flame Scorcher clan of the 5 tribulations had been refined into nothingness, completely dead. After putting away the Thunder Gourd, Yi Chen released the heaven-reaching divine flying boat and entered it, beginning to meditate and recuperate. It wasn't until 3 days had passed that Yi Chen finally fully recovered his essence, qi, and spirit to perfection. During these 3 days, perhaps because Yi Chen had killed the Flame Scorcher clan true god demon creatures, passing the challenge of the 13th layer of the Undersea Divine Palace, he did not encounter any new attacks from demons. Yi Chen, emerging from the heaven-reaching divine flying boat, looked once again at the ground of the 13th layer of the Undersea Divine Palace and murmured, "It seems that the true qi within my body is only enough to fully release the first sword move, Purple Light of the Purple Blood Divine Sword just once. I probably can't even fully release the second sword move, Extreme Lightning." The forbidden sword techniques of the Purple Blood Divine Sword consumed vast amounts of true qi. This is a sword technique close to the level of a heaven-reaching divine artifact. Fearfully, many powerful true gods might find the true qi within their bodies insufficient to even carry out a single move. Yi Chen, however, had cultivated the primordial chapter of the primordial star scripture, which enabled him to fully unleash the first move of the Purple Blood Divine Sword's prohibition move. This exertion nearly exhausted all of Yi Chen's true qi. This was also the reason Yi Chen initially did not use this move. It seems, I must continue to cultivate true qi and practice the primordial chapter. However, I have finally met the requirements to pass through the 13th floor, Yi Chen said with a light smile. Then he again entered the heaven-reaching divine artifact flying boat, maneuvering the vessel as he searched for the passage leading to the 14th floor of the Undersea Divine Palace. The 14th floor of the Undersea Divine Palace. At this time, numerous powerful true gods, including the elders of the Flying Spirit clan, the Vermilion Bird clan, and even the ancient emperor of the Yen clan, were still trapped in the slaughter chess game on the 14th floor. All were still navigating the 32 levels of the slaughter chess game, battling against 32 powerful rock warriors. While Yi Chun was cultivating inside the void celestial gourd, many of them had come to this 14th floor, and now they were still trapped inside. At this moment, the gaze of the God King level rock giant, who deployed the slaughter chess game, blocking everyone's path and stood over 5,000 zhang tall, was fixed on the 13th floor of the undersea divine palace, his divine eyes full of shocked expression. True God Zhou Lin was right. This young man who had shown extraordinary prowess in the 11th floor is indeed miraculous. He is only in the mid-stage of Heavenly Saint, yet he was able to use such a high-level killing move, even passing the most difficult challenge of the 13th floor. Not only did he kill the required 1,000 true god demons set by the undersea divine palace, he even annihilated all over 5,000 of them. At this moment, the rock giant divine king's gaze was directed at the young man, which was none other than Yi Chun, still searching for the passage to the 14th floor inside the 13th floor of the undersea divine palace. Listening to the rock giant divine king's words, it seemed to have seen Yi Chun's battles within the 13th floor. It even appeared to have heard the message transmitted by true god Zhou Lin, who was in charge of the 11th floor's void celestial gourd realm. Previously, there was almost no way for different levels of the undersea divine palace to communicate with each other. For the killing lifeforms of the lower floors of the undersea divine palace to know what happens in the upper levels was even more impossible. Now, the rock giant divine king was able to receive messages from both the 13th and the 11th floors, which was simply miraculous to the extreme. What's more miraculous was that after commenting on Yi Chun, the rock giant divine king murmured to himself, "Soon, this young man will enter the 14th floor and step into the slaughter chess game as well. I wonder whether he can break through and solve the chess game." The several 9 tribulations true gods who entered this time have spent so much time and still have not cracked the game. Even if they eventually break out, it's too disappointing. None of the other true gods have shown any noteworthy performance. Among this batch of great cleanse warriors, evidently, it's this young man who is the most unimaginable. Perhaps my hope lies with this young man. After the rock giant divine king murmured to himself, he became quiet. He quietly waited for Yi Chun to come to the 14th floor, no longer concerned with the progress of other martial artists in the slaughter chess game on the 14th floor.